He got isekai'd into a novel, not as a hero, not as a villain, but as a background instructor. He wanted a quiet life. His only goal was to avoid attention. Too bad talent shines loud. In a school full of future legends, he's somehow the real danger. Can the sword instructor stay out of the spotlight when he's accidentally becoming the main character? Let's find out. The story begins with Lee Minshun, the protagonist, calling an acquaintance yet again and asking if he could lend him just 100,000 won. He understands, but he's the only one he can rely on. He paid him back properly last time, right? He will definitely pay him back by the 15th. He apologizes if anything and thanks him very much. He will send his account number. After this conversation, the MC thought about how incredibly unlucky he is. You know those people who fail at everything they do? The ones who inadvertently make others think, at least I'm better than that guy. He is a novel writer, although he barely makes ends meet. A 29-year-old guy calls a friend to ask for 100,000 won for rent. This is him. The protagonist, flexing his hands, remarked that it looks like he will somehow survive another month. He read the negative comments under his latest novel and said the comments section was a mess. This is a literary device called foreshadowing, so they should just read on. Do they think writing novels is easy? Although, the readers are not to blame for anything. He wishes something similar would happen to him. If only he could be reborn in a novel and become powerful. Suddenly, the protagonist's nose started bleeding and he looked up, looking for a tissue. Suddenly, the King of Hell came up to him, holding a box of tissues, and asked if this is what he was looking for. MC, in complete shock, thanked him and started looking around. He said that he was Minshun, 29, a novelist. Cause of death? Overwork. He was pleased to meet him. He was the chief devil, the supreme judge of the other world, the great King of Hell. The protagonist, confused, asked him again, what did he say? The King of Hell explained that his life had come to an end, but he was very lucky. The protagonist was puzzled and remarked that this was a word he was not used to hearing. He replied that he had very good luck. His ordinal number was 7,777,777, a lucky number. As a reward, he would grant him one wish. Of course, outrageous wishes like becoming a god were impossible. The MC smiled and said that this was so unexpected. He was in the process of finishing writing a novel. If it ended like this, the readers would not be able to read the ending. The King of Hell sternly pointed out that he should not test his patience. The protagonist excitedly shouted, let him make it so that he would be reborn in the world of the novel. He chuckled and asked why that was. The protagonist added, let it be a harem. The King of Hell remarked that it was funny. Is there a novel he wants to go to? For reference, it is impossible to send him into the novel he wrote. MC wondered in surprise, how did he know? Although, if he got into his own novel, it would be the same as making him a god. He remembered one book and thought that he did not know everything from that book, but he remembered some parts. The protagonist in this novel lives quite comfortably, right? The protagonist shouted out that he wants to go into a book called Became a Dropout from Hunter School. He chooses this novel. The King of Hell asked, does he want to live inside the novel? This is a very funny wish. As a special gift, he will grant him 2 small requests. MC was surprised and answered, let him send him 2 years before the start of the main story. He thought that in the original novel, the story begins with the protagonist entering high school. However, his bad streak occurs in the last 2 years of middle school. If he can change before the main plot begins, it will be much easier for him. The King of Hell said that it was very good. He hoped that he would live happily there. What about the second request? The protagonist began to teleport and in a hurry shouted, let him make him handsome. Let him mix all the best qualities of popular people and make him an incredibly handsome man. The moment after this phrase, he disappeared. The servant of Hell noted what an unusual person he was. The king agreed and added that he certainly did not expect such a wish. Although appearance is part of a person's abilities, usually in such cases people ask to be placed in the bodies of the main characters. MC woke up in an unknown space and the soul transfer began. A system window appeared, notifying that Minshun was being transferred to the world of Became a Dropout from Hunter School. He woke up in someone else's body and thought that he was as if in a dream. Apparently, he really died. Another system window appeared, stating that the transfer of Minshun's soul into Kang Shinyuk's body was complete. The protagonist thought that he would now live in this body. Suddenly, it dawned on him, and he exclaimed in bewilderment that the protagonist's name was Lee Ji-sung. Who is Shinyuk? A system window appeared, notifying that memory restoration was in progress. In the world of hunters, the talent of a hunter manifests itself at the age of 10. In order to enter the School of Hunters, a special test is conducted. However, Shinyuk could not pass it. The director of the orphanage where he lived stole the test kits. After which, she reported that none of the children received the required result. So the children were sent to a regular school, where they led a life far from the life of a hunter. Over time, when the law was revised and retesting was conducted, it turned out that 15% of the children from the orphanage had an average rating. However, transferring to the School of Hunters was impossible. Shin-yuk graduated from high school at the age of 20 and worked as a porter for hunters. Then he finally awakened his abilities and became a hunter, joining a guild. His memories will manifest in certain situations to prevent the system from overloading. MC, after reading this, remarked that this guy is unlucky like him. He thought that he felt cheated. No, he was definitely cheated. The protagonist said with displeasure that when he asks to be reincarnated in a novel, it is obvious that he wants to become the protagonist. Even in his second life, he will be the embodiment of misfortune. He thought that, thanks to the records that just appeared, he remembered the character Shin-yuk. He is a swordsmanship instructor for the protagonist's parallel class. He is a supporting character among supporting characters, of which there are very few in the novel. MC exclaimed furiously. No matter how much he thought, it was all unfair. If he knew things would turn out like this, he would have just asked to go to heaven. He calmed down and thought that he would gladly go back and meet that scammer face to face. But in order to return to the afterlife, he would have to die. If he committed suicide just to meet the King of Hell, then he would rot there with him, right? A system window appeared, notifying him that he would soon wake up from his sleep. They wished him luck. The protagonist shouted furiously, "Is this some kind of joke? He really has to live Shin-yuk's life? Let him bring him back." Suddenly, he woke up in a new world, lying in bed. The protagonist worriedly thought, so this was not a dream. Suddenly, he received a call from the financial department of Chase. He picked up the phone and the manager greeted him and introduced himself. The MC wondered if he really got into Shin-yuk's body. The manager explained that they were calling him to confirm the payment of his severance pay. If he had any problems or questions, he should call them on this number. Suddenly, a notification came that he had received a deposit of 38,871,463 won. The sender was the Chase Guild. Severance pay. His balance was 309,532,485 won. The protagonist, seeing this amount, happily opened the curtains and exclaimed that from today on, he was Shin-yuk. He thought that this was as expected of a hunter with a balance of 300 million. Looking through his memories, he thought that Shin-yuk's life was not much different from his life, but for some, 300 million may not be much, but for him, a third-rate writer who died from overwork, barely making ends meet, this is a great fortune that he could never imagine. The protagonist happily spread his arms and said that it was a sin to complain about such a life. Despite the fact that there are monsters, portals, and hunters here, this place is no different from modern South Korea. Just like in Korea, he is 25 years old here. He is a man who is 25 years old, with a balance above 300 million, and super handsome. What could be better? He is young, handsome, with good abilities and endurance. Of course, in the future there will be a lot of B-rank hunters, compared to the main character, who was born into a rich family and will become stronger and stronger in the second part of the novel. He will fade. His existence does not affect the plot in any way. That's great. MC thought that the novel became a dropout from Hunter School. Has two main characters, the main protagonist of the novel Kim Do-hyun and Lee Ji-sung, who gets into the body of a loser. The second one takes advantage of the knowledge of the plot of the novel. He follows the path that was originally prepared for the main character. On top of that, Ji-sung used his wealth to consume various elixirs. In the end, he overpowers the original protagonist's abilities. He, who entered Shin-yuk's body, is different from those two. He does not need to compete with them, and he is not their rival. He originally had no reason to get involved with them. The reason he wanted to become a protagonist was because he wanted to live comfortably, meaning he can work occasionally and enjoy life. But now that is possible. At some point, just like in the original, when the portal goes out of control and the world is in crisis, Do-hyun and Ji-sung will join forces to stop the great army of monsters. The MC imagined how the moment the portal goes out of control, the protagonist's parents exclaimed that these two people are the world's last hope. All they can do is cheer them on. Let Ji-sung go forward. He is the light of humanity. Let Do-hyun continue to fight to save the world. Everyone would be shouting their names, and the protagonist would shout that it was time to buy expensive equipment at a very low price. This was the end of world trade. Stopping imagining, the protagonist thought that, in any case, these two would save the world without him. Meanwhile, if he bought the stocks that had crashed, he began to imagine and shout that he felt like money was flowing like a river. He could see the future. This was the future where he lived an easy life without worrying about money. Suddenly, a notification came to his phone, saying that he had passed the selection for the position of a swordsmanship instructor for first-year students. They had sent the details via email. Please let him check the email and give him a reply. The protagonist happily wondered if this was the same as winning the lottery. In that case, until the day the portals went out of control, he needed to live according to the plot. Well, it was time for him to save some money for the startup capital. After some time, on the first working day, MC thought that in the hunter world, Shin-hyuk is a B-rank hunter and a swordsmanship instructor. By chance, he got into Shin-hyuk's body at the time when he left the Chase Guild and got a job at the hunter school. He studied all the information about him, including his contacts and bank accounts. In the process of studying the information, he found out that Shin-hyuk was a hopeless outsider. The protagonist, holding a phone in his hand, noted that he worked from home, so he did not have any interaction with colleagues. But Shin-hyuk voluntarily closed himself off from the whole world? He remembered how he was bullied as a child and exclaimed with displeasure that all these children were born with a golden spoon in their mouth. The more influence, the worse the deeds. The protagonist thought that in his past life, he gave up many things, but above all, love and marriage. He told people that he didn't care and was comfortable being alone, but that was complete nonsense. He had many reasons for giving up his family life. But the main reason was that he was a third-rate writer who was barely making ends meet. Yes, justice had passed him by, but now it would be different. If he didn't end up in the protagonist's body, he had a lot at stake. He would use the resources to do everything he had never done in his previous life. After some time, MC came to the work office, greeted everyone happily, and added that he was the new sword instructor for the first years. All the workers looked at him silently. He thought awkwardly that he felt like he had overdone it. That's why it was so awkward. Suddenly, Park Hyun-suk greeted him and introduced himself, mentioning that he could use the workspace next to him. He thanked him with a smile and said that he hoped they would get along. After a while, the teachers, seeing the protagonist, asked in surprise if he was really a teacher. Another girl asked in shock if he had ever thought about becoming an actor. The kids are going to go crazy today. The MC thanked them with a smile and thought that he had paid for that face with his own life. One of the teachers asked if he was in a guild. He replied that he used to be in the Chase Guild. She noted in surprise that it was a very prestigious guild. Another teacher said with a smile that she thought he was at the age to become a full-fledged hunter. How cool he was. The protagonist grinned sheepishly and replied that they were flattering him. He thought that he could already see how popular he was becoming. Suddenly, Jong Hyung-sik, a teacher, approached them and asked again if he was in the Chase Guild. This school has finally started hiring someone worthwhile. He is happy to meet you. He teaches the second-year students how to wield a spear. He is a graduate of the 6th Hunter School and used to be a member of the Hwarang Guild. The guy put his hand on his shoulder and asked him with a smile, which school did he graduate from? He is sure that there were a lot of rumors about such a handsome guy. The protagonist tried to answer, but one of the teachers exclaimed with a smile that she would try to guess. He graduated from the 7th school, right? Hyung-sik added that he was betting on the 4th school. Another girl thoughtfully said that she would know if he graduated from their school. She thinks that he graduated from the 5th school. MC answered with a smile that in fact, he did not study at the hunter school. Everyone was immediately very surprised. One of the teachers asked how he became a hunter then. Another asked if he was an exchange student or if he had dual citizenship. Can people with dual citizenship apply for a teaching job? The protagonist answered with a smile that he is a citizen of South Korea. They know that there are hunters who did not graduate from hunter school, so he is one of them. Hyung-sik's expression immediately changed, removed his hand from his shoulder, and noted with displeasure that he should have said this from the very beginning. He will go smoke before the meeting begins. One of the teachers exclaimed, "Let him wait for her." The teacher said disappointedly that he was hopeful after learning about the Chase Guild, but it turns out that he is uneducated. It turns out that he is here on a quota. MC asked again in complete bewilderment, "Is he uneducated?" A system window appeared, which said that the system recognized Shin-hyuk's emotions and recalled the corresponding memories. Hunter Factor Test Kit is the most accurate way to determine the Hunter Factor. It is a kit that contains biological fluids of the Salamis monster, worth 100,000 won. The director of the orphanage who stole the kits and reported that all the children had low indicators was arrested. After that, thanks to the help of one of the orphanage graduates, all the children passed the test again. Despite this, those who came from regular schools were prohibited from participating in hunter activities, because the education in a regular school was different from what children received in hunter schools. This inequality in abilities gave rise to the law on discrimination against hunters who didn't graduate from special schools. This made it possible to get a job, regardless of education. Some government organizations allocate quotas for graduates of non-specialized schools, but the current situation does not meet the expectations of those who graduated from regular schools. The hatred towards such graduates has become even stronger. Let him try not to tell people that he did not graduate from a hunter school. MC, having learned this, thought, couldn't he have informed about this earlier? Well, he can understand the point of view of those teachers, but it is still unfair. As far as he remembers, he personally did not participate in the petitions, and even more so, he did not sign anything. Yunsuk excitedly called out to him and noted that he thinks that this really hurt him. He hopes that he will understand. This is the situation now. The protagonist thought that it was true, nothing could be done. For the sake of the future, he should accept it. He replied that everything was fine and he understood their position. A quota system for people who did not graduate from a school for hunters. This should have worked better. Yunsuk was confused and asked what he was talking about. MC was silent for a while and asked, didn't he get here through a special quota? He exclaimed, what kind of nonsense is this? He entered the school by passing an exam and an interview. This is a school for hunters. There is definitely no quota for graduates of special schools here. He thinks that the other teachers had a misunderstanding. At this time, outside, Hungshik asked how they could hire a person through a quota. Doesn't the school really have money for a normal specialist? The girl noted that she already felt sorry for the first years who will take lessons from him. Most first years mainly study the basics and physical strength, so it will be fine. Whoever hired this idiot has one sensible idea in his head and put him in charge of teaching the first years. She agreed and added that he was still a handsome guy. The other one asked with a smile, did she really have a crush on him? The girl asked with displeasure. What can you expect from him? Even if he was handsome, but he didn't graduate from hunter school, what good would it do? She put out her cigarette and replied that not going to hunter school was the same as dropping out of an orphanage. He had a pretty face, but no foundation. She would have to tell the kids to learn swordsmanship on their own, in addition to his lessons. The kids would graduate and risk their lives. She was afraid to imagine what would happen if they took lessons from such an amateur. Suddenly, the protagonist approached her. She asked him fearfully what he was doing here. He smiled and noted that teacher Yunsuk had said that they were probably in the smoking room. It seemed like there had been a misunderstanding between them. Wouldn't they have some time before the meeting? The girl pointed out that it didn't matter. He was standing there eavesdropping anyway. The MC nervously replied that he hadn't done it on purpose. He wondered if they were provoking him. He needed to restrain himself and think about the future. He said that he thought they might spread their misunderstandings further. He was not accepted into this school through a quota. He wanted to tell them that. Now he hoped that they would get along with him. Hungshik noted with a serious face that he apparently didn't understand something. It didn't matter to him how he got here, through a quota or through connections. That wasn't the reason they were acting like this. The problem was what he had studied and what he hadn't. He didn't need to tell them that he was no different from them. Well, he should try to keep a low profile and not cause trouble. There were general education teachers here, so if he wanted to talk to someone, he should go to them. One of the teachers pointed out that he was cruel. He was a swordsmanship instructor, and a B rank one at that. He must have cheated to get a B rank. That was unthinkable. Suddenly, Hungshik turned around, called out to him and warned him that if he thought he was wrong, he should apply for the honor duel. He was getting promoted to A rank next month, so he recommended him to apply before he got promoted. MC remained silent and thought that he now understood the reason why Shinyuk was an outsider. He remembered how in his past life, he met another novel writer and gave him his work to read. The guy remarked that he thought the novel was good. The protagonist happily asked, does this mean he can debut? He mockingly asked, debut? His novel is not bad for an ordinary person. After all, he didn't graduate from any school or academy like him. Let him forget about getting published. Let him just write for himself, because writing is not for him. MC thought that after that idiot published the same work and now he is doing well. Later, his work was called plagiarism, and everything went down the drain. Shinyuk had also experienced injustice many times. If you think about it, his life is not much different from his. No matter how stable life is there any meaning in it? He will do it only once. Suddenly, the protagonist called out to Hungshik and suggested that they have an honor duel. He thought that this was all for the sake of a comfortable life in the future. The teacher asked with a smile if he was serious now. If he just said this because his pride was hurt in front of the ladies, then he would pretend that he did not hear anything. The MC with a calm face replied that he was serious. He suggested that they meet in a duel of honor. The protagonist thought that in this world, when two hunters have a dispute, an honor duel helps to resolve it. As a rule, the one who does not accept the challenge will face the greatest shame, even if the essence of the dispute is meaningless, or if someone's victory is obvious. The protagonist approached him and pointed out that he only treats him with disdain because he did not graduate from hunter school, so he wants to prove that he deserves normal treatment through a duel. If he wanted, he could agree to a duel right after his promotion. Hungshik mockingly asked if he had ever dueled before. He did understand that he could die during an honor duel, right? He wouldn't be responsible for his injuries. The MC, with a serious face, pointed out that he had a big mouth. Maybe it was because he was a spear instructor. They would meet exactly 1 week later, next Friday, at the training ground. Could these girls witness their agreement? Hyungshik, shocked, replied that he didn't understand what he was counting on, but he should spend the whole week training. After some time, the main character thought that after that, the whole day was spent working. The students looked at him with envy and admiration. He was most worried about the swordsmanship lesson. But, strangely enough, everything was resolved as soon as he picked up the sword. Along with Shinyuk's memories, his swordsmanship skills also returned. During the training, the protagonist literally glowed with the sword in his hands, and all the students looked on with incredible admiration. MC thought that the classes for first years were simple. They included basic knowledge of swordsmanship and physical training. But there was one problem. By the afternoon, everyone was in a strange mood. During one of the lessons, one of the students asked if it was true that he would have a duel next week. The protagonist replied that he thought the rumors had already spread throughout the school. He thought that he couldn't say that he didn't expect it. He was sure that those two had spilled the beans. The student asked if he would be okay. His opponent was an elite hunter who wielded a spear. MC replied with a smile, "Let them not scare him ahead of time. The key to any fight is an unbreakable spirit." He was sure that they had heard rumors that he hadn't attended a hunter school. To be honest, he wasn't confident in winning. Suddenly, the protagonist belligerently exclaimed that he thought he would lose. But the results would be out next week, so let them focus on class. He wondered if anyone asked him if this was a psychological tactic. He would be half right. These were the remnants of his confidence from that morning. Sometime later, the protagonist, after a day of work, approached the bus and asked the driver if it was going to the Victor's Pass. He agreed and added that they were already leaving, so he should get on quickly. MC got on the bus and thought that part of him was confident about winning. Maybe things would change after today. Hunter school and elite education? If this was all that made teacher Hyungshik look down on him, then he should get some elite lessons too. He is going to go to the first location of the protagonist of the Hunter world and obtain the secret of strengthening internal energy. Although it may seem out of place in the genre of an academy novel, the first skill that the protagonist masters is the secret of internal energy. If the first step to increase the protagonist's strength was an item or elixir, Ji-sung would have become suspicious when he did not find the item in its place. The protagonist went to search at night and, lighting the way with a flashlight, noticed that according to the story, Ji-sung, knowing the original novel, follows the path of the protagonist Do-hyun and becomes stronger. Nothing will change if he also gets a skill. Good things are usually shared. In any case, he does not have the goal of saving the world, so he should not become as strong as the protagonist of the novel. He needs to become a little stronger to win the duel. MC climbed into the cave and, having found a portal, wondered what he found. This is the first object of the Hunter world. Behind this portal is the secret of strengthening internal energy. He entered and found himself in a snowy forest. The protagonist thought that he didn't know that this place was exactly like this according to the story. What an amazing landscape. He didn't think that there was such a place in Korea. He slapped his cheeks and noted that now was not the time to admire the view. He needed to quickly acquire the skill and leave. Suddenly, the protagonist felt a strong aura, dodged in an instant, and thought, "What the hell is this?" Cho Yuryong, the guide, was surprised that he managed to dodge. He is an unusual person. Let him say his name. What sect does he belong to and how did he get here? MC was perplexed that he was speaking Chinese. For some reason, he understands him. He didn't know that Shin-hyuk also speaks Chinese. He raised his hands and explained that he is a teacher at a hunter school from South Korea, and he got here through a portal. The old man pointed his sword at him and replied that he was telling him unknown words. The protagonist pointed his finger at the portal and asked in bewilderment if he saw a white door behind. He replied that all he could see here was white snow. He could no longer remember how long he had been stuck in this place. He had stopped counting the days after 30 years of being here. The MC wondered in confusion what he was muttering there. Instead of the secret of strengthening internal energy, this old man appeared in front of him. Wait, this man was familiar to him. He called out to him and, having called his name, asked if it was him. Yuryong was surprised to note that he didn't think anyone remembered his name. How did he know it? The protagonist was surprised to think that the person who was supposed to pass on the secret of strengthening internal energy to the protagonist of the novel was this old man. However, strangely, when the protagonist was transported through the portal, he was not there. There was a will in place along with the information on how to master the skill. He suddenly remembered how he himself asked the King of Hell to transport him 2 years before the start of the main story and thought that Yuryong was still alive. He understood the situation, but he couldn't tell him that he read his name from a book. The MC excitedly said that he had heard of him in the past. The old man was surprised and asked what he had heard. He replied that it happened a long time ago. The story of a legendary swordmaster who suddenly disappeared during a battle with a ferocious dragon that appeared out of nowhere and brought trouble to a huge number of people. He was the hero of the story. Yurong smiled and remarked that he thought someone had witnessed that battle. The protagonist thought happily that it had worked. He had simply recounted something he had read in a book. This old man let his guard down a little. He was probably one of those who were very proud of their martial arts. He bowed his head and thought that he would act in this direction. The protagonist, with his head pressed to the ground, explained that in fact, he had come here in search of the ultimate master. He was not a villain, so he asked him to teach him everything he knew about the sword. Yurong wondered if he wanted him to teach him martial arts, and he was funny. He refused. Let him come back before he took his life. The old man began to leave, when suddenly the MC said that he would have to fight an opponent who was a master of the spear. Who would win between the sword and the spear? Yurong replied that spears were far superior to short swords. With proper training, a spear could become a deadly weapon. The length, the destructive power. So his answer was, the spear would defeat. The protagonist wondered in surprise why he had accepted the fact that the sword had been defeated so quickly. The old man added that if he had understood everything, he should go back. He should value his life. He thought excitedly that he couldn't just leave. He had told him all sorts of nonsense and was going to run off into the sunset. If he had known that he would be sent back, he wouldn't have come here at all. The protagonist exclaimed that he knew it. He knew that the sword couldn't defeat the spear, but he thought that he would be able to find another answer here. Next week, he would have a battle in front of a huge number of people. He had to go back and start training hard. But how would he do it, knowing in advance that he couldn't expect victory? What should he do? Maybe he should just refuse. But then he would be humiliated. What should he say to the spear instructor? Maybe something like, on behalf of the sword instructors, he acknowledges the superiority of the spear? Or maybe, in front of his spear, his sword is just a branch. Or should he say, toothpick? Yes, toothpick would sound better. Yurong pointed out with irritation that they were only discussing which weapon was stronger, but he had no idea how good his opponent was. The king's sword could cut an entire dragon in half. The fact that he compared a spear to a sword in front of him was a reason to chop off his head. Well, he would help him, so he should stop crying. MC, pretending to cry, thought with a smile that he had succeeded. He began to wipe his face and, after thanking him, asked what kind of help he was talking about. Maybe he was going to share a secret with him, or give him a spiritual elixir. He would be grateful for anything. The old man pointed at him and asked what he was talking about. He was giving him something better. Suddenly, the protagonist felt powerful surges of energy throughout his body, and falling to the ground, thought that it was hot. He felt like he was being beaten with a club. Yurong noticed that he was very weak. He injected a small amount of pure yang energy into his body. In 4 days, it would completely dissolve in his body, and he would feel the changes. He did not know how strong his opponent was, but if he was good in himself, he would come out of the fight unbeaten. MC thought discontentedly, is that all? Is this the great opportunity of the protagonist of the novel? He tried to exclaim, but the old man interrupted him and said that if he won the duel, he should come to him again. He was not going anywhere from here anyway. Now let him return to his world and prove to everyone that the sword is stronger than the spear. A week later, the two teachers met at the training ground. Hyung-shik mockingly asked, did he really not run away? He thought he would spend the week wisely and find himself a new job. The protagonist, with a serious face, said that they should not waste time on talking and go straight to the fight. He laughed and, getting into a fighting stance, said that he would give him a head start and let him attack first. MC thought that, of course, the spear has an obvious advantage. He also got into a fighting stance and, thanking him, said that he hoped that he would not regret it. The protagonist thought that his body was so light, he had become strong enough not to be beaten, but would he be able to defeat him like this? Even if he was carried out on a stretcher after this duel, he was not going to live the life of a coward. He made a lightning dash and in an instant delivered a slashing blow from which the spear broke and even the clothes of the opponent were torn. Everyone watching was in complete shock. The referee declared that the duel was over. The victory goes to teacher Shin-hyuk. Let them call an ambulance quickly. Hyung-shik, from such a powerful blow, fell to the ground and screamed in horror how much pain he was in. MC, trembling with excitement, remembered the old man's words that in 4 days the energy would completely dissolve in his body, and he would feel the changes. He would emerge from the fight unbeaten. He, clutching the sword in his hand, nervously said that this was a crazy old man. What did he do to his body? The protagonist thought that the main character of the novel became a dropout from hunter school. Jisung studies martial arts and his skills are growing by leaps and bounds. Of course, part of this is because he drinks elixirs like water. He thinks that he has become too strong. Suddenly, teacher Yunsuk runs up to him and excitedly shouts, "Is he injured?" MC asked with a smile if he was watching the duel. He agreed with admiration and added that it was amazing. Honestly, he couldn't even see what happened. He just disappeared for a second, and then everyone saw teacher Hungshik's underwear. The protagonist thought that the other teachers probably saw him as an ordinary general education teacher. By the way, why is he so happy? He thinks that he had something against teacher Hungshik. Yunsuk happily exclaimed that, in any case, he was glad that he was safe and sound. Such an event cannot go unnoticed. He was treating him today. The other teachers began to join in, saying that they wanted to too. He excitedly noted that they should mean that he could only spend 20,000 won on each. After some time, they all gathered at a cafe and had a good rest. At night, MC returned home and, being intoxicated, told them to stop pouring him drinks. Shinyuk didn't get home until 4 a.m. A normal person would have had a severe hangover after all that drinking, but his body had cleansed itself. He had gained a lot more physical skills than he had planned. The protagonist suddenly woke up and was confused that he didn't have a hangover. What had happened to him? In this situation, Shin-hyuk couldn't help but visit the one who had changed his body so much. After a while, the protagonist returned to the old man with some treats. He thought that he didn't think he would return to this place again, but he had to thank him, because he was alive only because of him. Everything was so white, there was only snow and trees around. The MC started looking for Yuryong and was confused. He said that he couldn't leave this place through the portal, right? There weren't even any animals here. Even for the fictional world of a novel, this was too harsh. Suddenly, the old man felt his presence and, while meditating, he noticed that he had come. Had he defeated the Spearmaster? The protagonist happily replied that he had killed him with one blow of his sword. His opponent had left the battlefield in disgrace, wearing only his underwear. He said that the Spearmaster was weaker than he thought. MC explained that in his world, that person was well known. To be honest, he had come because he wanted to ask him something. What had he done to his body that day? Yuryong asked in confusion. What did that mean? He had only opened the path to the Dantian, just a little bit, so that he could at least leave the battle alive. What kind of martial art had he used in the duel? How great was his opponent's internal strength? How well everything was going? He was just getting bored. They could talk. The protagonist was surprised to think that this was a martial art. Now he understood everything. This old man had bet on him, and the first fight was something like a test of his abilities as a future student. Jisung had opened the path to the Dantian with various spiritual elixirs, and he had done it all by himself. He excitedly replied that he was sorry to say this, but he had not studied martial arts. Yuryong was confused and asked what he was talking about. His path to the Dantian was closed, but he was sure that he had felt traces of knowledge. MC explained that these were simple sword skills. He thought that in Nurim, warriors increase their inner strength through martial arts, but for hunters, things work differently. It is something like, the more a person trains, the more mana is formed in his body. The protagonist approached him and asked if he remembered the name of the country he lived in before coming to this place. The old man agreed and replied that he was from the Min Empire. Zhu Yuanzhang is their emperor. The protagonist thought, that's it. The hunter started awakening not long ago. Yuryong came from a completely different world, so he is not aware of what is happening outside. He noted that he is interested in history, so he knew about it, the legendary sword. Martial arts no longer exist in the outside world. The old man exclaimed in complete shock. What did he say? The MC explained that many years have passed since the Min Empire. The world is now ruled by another power, so martial arts are forgotten more and more every year. He thought this explanation would be better than saying that this is a completely different world. Yuryong noted in confusion that due to being here for a long time, his sense of time has become completely dull. Apparently, many more years have passed than he thought. The protagonist thought that he seemed more lonely than usual. But he should not worry, because Jisung will come soon and become his friend. He handed him a package and said that he didn't know if it would comfort him, but here was an offering from the outside world. It was a health tonic. The old man took it, tasted it, and embarrassed by the taste, asked, was there some kind of leprosy in the outside world? Poor people, they had to take care of their health with such horrible things. In his time, they brandished swords and ate 50-year-old wild ginseng as a side dish. What had happened to the world? MC thought that he was the kind of person who liked to get on people's nerves. He reached into his backpack and remarked that he thought he might like something sweet. Yuryong wondered if he thought he was a little child or something. The protagonist took out the package and explained that it was called chocolate. In the outside world, they ate it when it was cold. Unfortunately, the weather here was always like this. The old man remarked on how beautiful the wrapper was. The food itself? Well, it was worth trying. He took a bite and, admiring the taste, made a serious face and said that it was edible. If he had more, he should bring it here. After a while, Yuryang ate his fill and remarked that there was so much wonderful food in the outside world. MC thought that he had eaten all of his supplies. He wondered how he had ever satisfied his hunger. The old man replied that since he had become a master, he did not need to eat. He simply tasted the food. Did he have anything else? The protagonist wondered irritably. When would he be able to go home? Well, he thought that the food had distracted him from his loneliness, and that was good. Yuryang struck a pose and said that, judging by what he had said, the Min dynasty had long since disappeared. Martial arts had become extinct, and monsters were appearing in the world. The protagonist replied that it was true. Instead of Mirim, there were hunters. The old man added that he had lost count of the days he had spent here. Ever since he had come here, all he had been thinking about was ascending. Since he had opened the path to the Dantian, he was considered the only martial artist, right? MC agreed and listened further. Yuryang pointed out that the difference in strength between those who had mastered martial arts and those who had not was enormous. How was he going to use his strength? He replied that he was simply planning on living a normal life. He liked the fact that he did not have a hangover after drinking too much. He thought that it would be useful if he had to wake up early in the morning. Also, his back would not hurt after sitting for a long time playing games. The old man noticed that he had not asked his name. MC introduced himself and began to put on his backpack. Yuryang looked at him and thought that he was just a teacher who taught children the basics. He did not think that he would do anything stupid if he passed on his knowledge to him. He proudly announced that he was the Sword King, the master who had killed the dragon and saved the emperor. He would take him as his disciple. The protagonist replied with a calm face that he would refuse. The old man was very surprised and asked if he had misheard. He replied that he had not. He was indeed grateful to him, but he did not need it. He did not intend to become so strong. He had helped him through the crisis, so he could return to his life. Yuryang was shocked to note that if he became his disciple, the whole world would be at his feet. But he saw his unwavering gaze. Well, in that case, let him go. He needed to prepare for his ascension. MC bowed his head and replied that it was an honor to meet such a great man. The old man said that he was very sorry. He thought that before his death, he would be able to leave something to the world. The protagonist was stunned and thought that according to the plot of the novel, he would have to leave this world. But at what point? He called out to him and asked if he could really ascend to heaven from here. Yuryang replied that it was possible by achieving a certain level of enlightenment, skill, and virtue. He had almost reached the maximum level of skill. He had gained virtue by helping him. Just a little enlightenment left, and he would have reached his goal. He wouldn't even need to leave anything behind. MC stood up in shock and asked if he really wasn't going to leave behind any knowledge, like a book, for example. The old man asked with displeasure, why leave books if no one would read them anyway? Besides, martial arts had long been forgotten in the outside world, right? That meant no one would be able to understand the essence. The protagonist thought that he hadn't even thought about the possibility of not leaving behind books. With him coming to this place, there would be a hole in the plot of the novel. If this old man didn't leave behind a legacy, Jisun wouldn't have reached the starting point. This means that he will never have a rivalry with Dohyun, and he, in turn, will have no reason to become stronger. In the end, this world will be destroyed. He thought that this was a simple event in a novel, but how wrong he was. The protagonist excitedly called out to him and said that he was wrong. Let him take him as a student. Yuryang noticed that he was a bit strange. He changed his mind so quickly. MC replied that he would not regret it. His knowledge of martial arts will live on. He asks him to take him as his student and pass on his knowledge. He thought that this is the only way he can live happily ever after. The old man looked at him and noticed that he had a determined look. The protagonist said that every time he came here, he would bring an offering of food from the outside world. Yuryang immediately exclaimed that the training will be difficult. Is he ready for this? The protagonist agreed and thought about how he would have to sacrifice his free time. After the honor duel, the entire school was in a tizzy. Everyone was talking about how an instructor who did not graduate from hunter school defeated an elite spearmaster. The duel also involved teachers of general education subjects and those that are mandatory for hunters. No wonder teacher Yun-suk was so happy that day. All the teachers were whispering about the recent duel. One girl said that she heard that there were quotas for teachers who did not graduate from hunter school. The man replied that, to be honest, he thought that among the uneducated hunters, there was no one with such skills. Looking at Shinyu's performance, he changed his mind. By the way, he thinks that he did not ask for anything for winning the duel. This teacher even has an angelic personality. MC, hearing this, thought that he completely forgot to indicate the reward for winning the duel. However, the looks of respect from everyone around him, how pleased he was. He was one step closer to the life he dreamed of. He opened the door to the classroom and remarked that he was going to visit the old man on weekends, and on weekdays he would be maximally focused on his life. When the protagonist entered the classroom, all the children greeted him 3 times. They began to say with admiration that they had heard about the results of the duel. How did he do it? He not only defeated his opponent, but destroyed him to smithereens. The protagonist asked in bewilderment, how did they know? Do the students have access to this information? One of the students happily replied that the brother of the student Jin-soo was a teacher in the middle school. The student himself asked with a smile, could he not tell him anything? MC sighed and noted that they did not need to know everything. Let them open their textbooks. Today they had theory. He thought that unlike his previous life, he had a good job and a healthy body. He would carefully cherish his happiness about the stable life that he had acquired. Several hours had passed since he was enjoying life. After some time, the protagonist came to the buffet and told the worker to put more on his plate. He answered with a serious face that it was not allowed. They exchanged stern glances, and the worker still added more. The protagonist happily thought that today was his lucky day. He could not believe that he managed to snatch 2 extra sausages. This was like the beginning of Shin-yuk's popularity. Suddenly, Choi Sora came up to him and said that this place was free. He is a teacher, right? Shin-yuk, who teaches high school students the art of swordsmanship, right? MC saw that she had a huge pile of sausages and answered in surprise that it was him. How did she get all those sausages? Oh, it doesn't really matter. How did she know him? The girl grinned and answered that he shouldn't bother, otherwise she would feel awkward. There were no CCTV cameras here, so he could address her informally. The protagonist wondered in surprise if they really knew each other. Usually, memories come back to him when he meets someone he knows. Sora asked if he really didn't recognize her. If so, she was a little offended. The girl said her name and started eating her food. The protagonist thought that he had seen that name somewhere. Sora's colleague from the contact list. That's right. He said her name, and the girl noted with a smile that now he recognized her. Yes, she had changed a lot since their last meeting. She didn't think that they would become teachers, and in the same school, no less. MC thought excitedly that it was definitely her number that was saved in his phone. It was a colleague, but why didn't the memories appear? Probably because he already knew her. Sora, one of the teachers of the class, where the main character of the novel studies. In the 2nd volume, she is one of the key characters. Because this woman is a member of the international criminal organization Antagonists, a system window appeared, notifying that Shin-hyuk's memories were returning. Antagonists, or ANTAS for short, is an organization that opposes hunters. They have destroyed countless hunters. The organization is a group of people with outstanding physical skills who act quickly and accurately. Therefore, they are almost elusive. Sora called out to him and asked what happened to his face. She said that he could act like he usually does here. Nothing bad will happen. MC thought that this was strange. After all, he read the novel to the end. He doesn't remember there being any information about Shin-yuk being a member of ANTAS. A system window appeared, notifying that an extra chapter was open. From this point on, the story of Shin-hyuk, an assassin from the ANTAS organization, begins. The protagonist thought in fear, assassins? What was he even doing? He remembers that he carefully read the novel until the very end. There's no way he didn't notice that Shin-hyuk is a member of the ANTAS organization. Wait, maybe it's something else? In an interview with the writer who finished the novel, it was said that he was working on a sequel. The author said that the sequel would cover moments that weren't in the main story. A system window appeared, saying that an extra chapter was available for reading. Shin-hyuk, prologue. MC thought excitedly, let it open immediately. Another system window appeared, saying that Shin-hyuk, an assassin from the ANTAS organization, was returning his memories. During his time in the guild, he had a comrade named Kim Chang-soo. He was the one who reported the director of the orphanage where they both grew up. 2 years ago, they were returning together after another mission in the portal on Mount Gwanak. Suddenly, the portal exploded and various monsters began to appear from it. They immediately contacted the guild members, but they were busy with another incident. Shin-hyuk and Chang-soo. He was like a brother to him. That day, Shin-hyuk lost the person dearest to him. After it was over, the guild explained that they could not afford to send help. The city was also rampant with monsters at the time, so they decided to sacrifice 2 low-ranking hunters. However, Shin-hyuk knew that this was all due to discrimination, since he and his comrade came from a normal school. He, after learning the true reason, decided to apply for an overseas transfer. After returning from a year-long mission to China, Shin-hyuk wanted to leave the guild, but at that moment, Sora appeared and invited him to join the ANTAS organization. MC, after reading this, thought that the plot in the additional chapters was a bit dark. He could not even imagine that a secondary character had such a behind-the-scenes story. A system window appeared. in which there was a continuation that Shin-yuk falls in love with this girl and immediately joins the organization. He even donates funds for the benefit of the organization. For reference, Shin-yuk confessed his feelings to Sora, but was rejected. To remain cool, he decides to stay in the organization and continues to sponsor her. And in order to get closer to her, he decides to get a job at a school for hunters. The main character thought that this idiot was engaged in some kind of game. What about Chang-su? What about revenge for a comrade? Suddenly Sora called out to him and asked if he was okay. The protagonist excitedly replied that he was fine. She asked if it was true. He just seemed so surprised. The MC smiled and wondered if she wouldn't be surprised if she were him. He thought that happy days had finally come for him, but it turns out that he was a member of a criminal organization. He would definitely go crazy. The girl added that she knew what skills he had, but it was incredibly difficult to get into a hunter school. When he told her that he was leaving the guild and joining a school, she thought it would take at least 2 years. The protagonist grinned excitedly and asked if it was true. He thought that he passed the interview in one go. He seemed to like this girl very much. Sora asked how his school life was. Did he like working here? The protagonist replied that it was fine so far. The semester had just started, so it was unclear yet. Sora asked displeasedly why he hadn't contacted her all this time. He could have at least told her that he got the job. She was even sad that he hadn't called or texted her. The MC apologized with trembling hands and explained that he had been incredibly busy. He thought that it was a good thing he hadn't called her. It would have been incredibly awkward since he could have made a mistake. The girl said that she was sure that something had happened to him. By the way, why had he stopped donating money to the organization? She heard that he hadn't sent any money this month. The protagonist worriedly wondered how he could pay for something he didn't know about. These payments weren't in his bank account history. No, at times like these, he should only think about himself. He shouldn't let them rob him. He wondered if he could refuse, right? Sora replied that he had already donated a lot, and besides, it was not a requirement to join the organization. Even if he had nothing to spend money on, the teachers' salaries weren't that high. Besides, she already said that the Antus organization never forces donations. MC thought that Shin-hyuk was an idiot. How much money did he spend on this charity? The girl added that he shouldn't worry. The organization is aware of his situation. Besides, she is sure that his rank has increased since he defeated a hunter who is almost A rank. It is an honor to receive help from someone like him. She offers him to change the world for the better together. The protagonist thought that this organization wants to destroy the world. Usually in academy novels, criminal organizations hiding on campus pursue one goal: extremism. However, despite the fact that Antus is a criminal organization, they do not kill people without reason. They also do not touch the students of the school, since they are not full-fledged hunters. Most likely, Sora's role is to lure students into the organization. He makes these assumptions based on what he read. It is unknown what other secrets may be in the extra chapters. He asked her with a serious face if she could remind him what he should do. The girl pointed out that he should focus on getting used to the school first, and that he should try to make friends. The protagonist replied that he understood that. But wouldn't it be better to tell him about the organization's plans? Knowing at least something would help him understand what he should do to achieve his goal. Sora started to leave, and replied that he shouldn't worry, it was just for a while. He was the only one in high school, so everything would be fine. She suggested that they see each other more often. How about the last Tuesday of every month? The MC asked again in confusion. The last Tuesday? The girl explained that there were never any corporate events on Tuesdays, so they would meet for dinner. Okay, she was leaving. They would see each other again. After she left, the protagonist began to think a lot. After a while, he thought that training with his teacher had started smoothly. He decided to record his progress as a beginner. Yurian was very kind. It was an honor for him to learn his knowledge of martial arts. The old man noted that he helped him open the way to Dantian. From now on, he should figure it out on his own. From now on, he should not relax and rest. Let him focus on circulating internal energy throughout his body. Did he understand this? The MC continued to meditate silently. Yurian irritably hit him on the head and asked again, did he understand him? The protagonist exclaimed that he was constantly chatting, which is why he could not concentrate at all. The old man replied that the fact that he could not concentrate was not his problem. His energy flow is interrupted. He feels like he is worried about something. The protagonist asks if he can see it somehow. Yurian explains that the circulation of energy should be as natural as breathing. If he gets distracted by small things, the circulation will be interrupted. The MC notes that, frankly speaking, he is a little worried about his essence. The old man says, let him talk. He will share his wisdom with him. He asks, looking at him, who does he think he is? A good person or a villain? Yuryang exclaims, "How can he know that?" The protagonist irritably thinks about how he annoys him. The old man adds that he is just a pathetic parasite. His life is worthless now, just like a man who asks the king of the underworld to grant him beauty in the next life. If he does good, he is good, and vice versa. Having strength defines him. According to the law of the mountains and forest of swords, during a battle, the strongest survives, and the loser is written down in history as evil. All those who caused trouble in the past were short-lived. Without strength, good and evil are just an illusion. Well, did he help him? MC surprisedly agreed and thanked him. Yuryang replied that he should go and get him some chocolate then. He began to carry out the order and thought that his words truly touched the strings of his soul. Sometime later, the protagonist met Sora in a cafe and thought that all those who caused trouble in the past were short-lived. His dream is to live a long, comfortable life, making money on stocks. Extremism, murder, and revenge do not bother him at all. He does not want to die trying to somehow influence the world. The girl, perplexed, asked what was going on. After all, they were planning to meet every last Tuesday of the month. The protagonist replied that he wanted to say something. Could he leave the Antas organization? Sora silently turned over the fork and tried to deliver a lightning strike to the head. The people present in the establishment turned to them in surprise. The MC shook with fear. He thought that he knew that she would not like this idea, but he certainly did not expect such a reaction. She said that she thought that he should explain everything properly. Otherwise, she would make a hole in his face with this fork. He said okay, he will tell everything, but first, she should remove this from his face. And they also need to change the location. They attracted too much attention. The girl, turning to her partner, whispered for him to look. It seems that the guy cheated on his girlfriend. He replied, "It looks like it. Cheating is not so bad." She said, "Let him just try to cheat on her. She will finish him off." He replied that he did not even think about it. Meanwhile, the protagonist raised his hands and said that first they should go to his car. He had to show her something. After some time, they were riding in the car. She said that he would explain to her the reason for leaving. Why go to Incheon for this? He replied that he did not think that she would take his word for it. She should be patient for a little while. Sitting in the back seat behind him, she again put the fork to his neck and added that, while they were driving, he should tell her the reason for leaving. He was surprised. Did she bring the fork with her? Then she put the fork to his neck, and he, frowning, replied, "Okay." Initially, he entered Antas only because he was discriminated against. Getting a job at a school, his perception changed a little. She said that he only won a duel once. This clearly could not change his opinion. He thought that she did not let him finish at all. It is customary to listen to the end of a sentence. Then he sighed and added that he didn't think it was because of the duel. However, that event was one of the reasons for his decision. He looked in the rearview mirror and added that he realized that he didn't have to be in the organization to become stronger. And Antas was too radical. The organization's worldview was different from his in many ways. He didn't support extremism, and killing people wasn't his thing. Sora said she had said from the beginning that they weren't doing extremism. The government was, and the people they were killing deserved to die. Shin-yuk replied, "That's not how the world works." She frowned and closed her eyes, screaming, "But he doesn't do anything like that. So he's just afraid of being given the task of killing someone?" He responded, sweating profusely, that he was afraid. He was really scared. "Sora, please." She should remove the fork. She said that he was a coward and removed the fork from his neck. He thought it was harder than he thought. But he already knew that leaving the criminal organization would not be easy, but he had prepared himself. After that, he told her to search for some news on the internet. She should type in the murder of the deputy director of the Hunter Administration Min Young-suk in the search engine. She said, "Young-suk, isn't that the idiot who stole billions of won from the government budget? That idiot clearly deserved to die." The protagonist said that he died as a result of a collision with a truck. In addition to him, there was another person killed. The driver of the car, Mr. Kim Mo, had lost his wife a long time ago, and all this time he lived alone with his daughter. He did not have a permanent job, but sometimes he went to work part-time at the Hunter administration. This raises the question, was Mr. Mo related to Young-seok's corruption? She answered in the negative. Lee Soa is the most popular heroine in the Hunter world. An irreplaceable character who creates a love triangle with the main characters. She plays an important role in the second part of the novel. It was her father who was his driver Young-seok on that fateful day. The protagonist said that Antas exposed Young-seok's corruption and claimed that they were the ones who killed him. The people's reactions were serious. Some supported the organization's actions. However, Mr. Mo's death remained in the shadows. Sora said that she was sure that there was a mistake. Antas never harms the people. He knows about this charter. He thought that he should ask her a question. Then he asked, "Is she serious? Does she really believe that Mr. Mo could be the only victim who happened to be near the organization's target?" He looked back and thought that she guessed everything, but intentionally turned a blind eye to the truth, right? It seems that everything worked. It seems that from today on, he can spread his wings and fly into the world of a carefree life. Sora put her hand to her face and said, "Does he know the reason why she rejected him when he confessed his feelings to her?" He was surprised. Suddenly, he replied that it was not so. To be honest, he was not interested right now. She put the fork to his neck again and told him to listen to her. He replied, but he would gladly listen to her. She asked, did he know about the mass portal appearance 15 years ago? Her parents died during that incident. He thought, so that's it. Apparently this story is also from the extra chapters. He added, they must have had a hard time, but what does that have to do with his confession? She pressed the fork harder to his neck and he replied that he was silent. She could continue. She continued, if the hunters arrived, they could save the parents. The areas with the highest risk. His in her area had the most open portals, 4D rank and 2C rank. Their area was in the greatest need of help, and the Hunter Association was located nearby. However, none of them came. There was no one. In one of the elite areas, only 3 F-rank portals had appeared, and more than a dozen elite hunter teams from the largest guilds were there. The protagonist thought that this was similar to the Shinyuk situation. But if that really happened, the public would be outraged. I wonder if there was something like that in the novel? Sora told him to know that the incident did not make it to the press, because the people in charge were able to shut their mouths with money. If she hadn't investigated personally, she would never have found out the truth. He thought, so that's how Sora got into Antas. Then she put her hand to her face, tears streaming down her eyes, and asked, is it strange? She wanted to tell him why she refused him, but she started talking about her parents. In fact, she refused him not because she disliked him. She just decided to forget about all her feelings and focus on revenge. Then she stuck a fork into the headrest of the driver's seat and screamed. He has to help her. She offered to go out after she avenged her parents. He screamed at her to throw away that damn fork. He stuck his head out of the car window and thought, what kind of parent wants their child to join an extremist organization and live for revenge? If it were the real Shinyuk, he would help Sora. But he has no feelings for her. Well, yeah, she's quite beautiful, cute, but there are plenty of other women in the world besides her. He'll just close his eyes and apologize to her, and then go straight to his happy life. He read the novel, so he knows the future. He's already dealt with the problem of the main characters. Now he just needs to deal with Sora and the Antas organization, and his life will be in chocolate. But for some reason, the next second, he was back in his body, and Shinhyuk, putting his hand on his shoulder, asked him. He turned around in surprise and called out to him. And at that moment, Sora was screaming his name and telling him to watch the road. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, thinking, damn it, they almost died. But what just happened? Sora said that she would remove the fork. After all, the steering wheel of the car was in his hands. He asked if she knew who she was going to take revenge on. She was surprised. What was wrong? Had he changed his mind? He replied that he wanted her to answer the question first. She said thoughtfully, the director of the Hunter administration at that time was Kim In-hak, but she didn't think that he was the one who ordered the hunters that day. MC sighed and said that if he was the director of the administration back then, he probably holds a higher position now. Shinyuk? He's a hopeless romantic. She asked, so they were going to pretend that there was no talk about him leaving the organization? He stated that he would still leave Antas, but he wouldn't refuse help. She wondered, what does that mean? How is he going to help her? Even the Antas members said it was a tough case. He said, so they won't help. Does she really believe they'll catch In-hak and bring him to her? She said maybe not now, but sometime later. He asked when. The organization gave her specific information. In-hak, a member of the National Assembly, a character he'd read about before. In the story, he was on the rise until he met the protagonist. 3 years later, the protagonist will expose Sora as an Antas member and she'll have to stand trial. As far as he remembers, she wasn't executed, but she was given a life sentence without parole. In other words, in 3 years, this woman will go to prison for life. Then Sora said that if she carries out missions for Antas, they will definitely. But before she could finish speaking, the protagonist stated that Antas would do nothing. She was indignant. What does he know? He lowered his head and thought that he knows her future. She has no idea who she has gotten involved with. Then he asked, she will not believe him until she personally sees. Is he right? She must listen to him carefully. Sora, he will help her, but she will have to leave the organization with him. This is his condition. She asked, what does this mean? She will be able to take revenge while in Antas. He stated that they will not help. He knew that she will stand her ground, so she will change her mind as soon as they are there. She asked where are they going in the end. He answered, to one of the sources of funding of the Antas organization. They are going to buy illegal substances with her. After some time, they arrived at the right place. Sora asked after getting out of the car, "Is this the right place? It seems like it's closed." They were standing in front of the dry cleaner's entrance, and MC confirmed that it was, as it was his first time here too. After that, he opened the door and walked inside, thinking that at first glance it was an ordinary establishment, but in reality it was not. Hidden deep in the dark corners of Chinatown, the dry cleaners is actually one of the Antas organization's stores that sell illegal substances. After that, he approached the clerk and asked in Chinese, "Do they sell substances?" The clerk folded his arms and asked in Chinese, "What is he talking about?" Shinyuk said that he knew what they were selling here, so he came to buy some for himself. He replied that he didn't know what kind of crazy person pointed him to this place. Then he took a knife from under his desk and, holding it to the protagonist's face, said, "Hey, they do wholesale, they don't sell anything individually, so if he doesn't want trouble, he should get lost." The protagonist chuckled. He asked, "What kind of crazy person pointed him to this place?" Actually, it was a woman. What was her name? He would definitely tell Maylene about the quality of service here. The worker raised his hands, surprised. Did he know Maylene? He confirmed it. He met her when he lived in China. When he asked her salesperson in Korea, she gave him the address of this dry cleaner. Of course, this was all a lie. Maylene was the daughter of the Chinese boss of the Antas organization, and also the head of the representative office of Genesis, a synthetic substance developed by the Antas branch in China. Of course, he couldn't know such an important person. He just needed to convince Sora of her mistaken opinion about Antas. Then he asked, if he didn't believe her, could he talk to her himself? He showed her the phone and added, but he would have to pay for his doubts. The worker nervously answered, no. He apologized for not understanding right away. He'll get everything ready right now. How much does he need? The protagonist answered, the more the better. He said that he understood. So he's going to take Genesis? He replied. He also asks, he has to bring the best product. The worker asked them to wait a minute. Sora leaned over to the main character and whispered what he was talking to him about in Chinese. He replied that he had already said that they were here for illegal substances. He thought she would believe his words if she saw it for herself. This place sold substances made in China. She asked, was it true? She had no idea that the Antas organization was making such things. Of course, she knew nothing about it. Information about Genesis only comes to light after the main character encounters the Antas organization in Chinatown. After that, the Korean branch of the Antas organization appears. Having learned from the situation, they ask the Chinese for a percentage of sales in Korea. So a dispute arises between the two branches. And then the main character, the Apostle of Justice, appears and destroys everyone. Then he turned to her and whispered, if she doesn't believe him, he'll ask the man to speak Korean so she'll understand. A few moments later, the merchant returned with a few bags and said that they had just started the market, so they didn't have much in stock. He found some supplies. It should last a month. He hoped that he could put in a good word for him with Miss Maylene. The protagonist said, okay. He suggested switching to Korean. The worker agreed. Is it okay if the girl behind them understands them? Shinyuk pointed at her and said that it doesn't matter. She's addicted to Genesis herself. The worker looked at her intently and she made a face and gave him 2 thumbs up, laughed madly, and said that she loves Genesis. The seller whispered to the protagonist that it would be better not to give it to his bestie anymore. He turned to her, blushed with embarrassment, and said that he honestly didn't know that she liked Genesis so much. By the way, he heard that the next batch would be ready soon. He replied that it would take some time to deliver the goods to Korea. The protagonist noted that he would have to wait a long time. He confirmed this. It would be faster for him to fly to China and pick up the goods directly from Mrs. Maylene. Sora whispered. She hardly understood the conversation since she was completely ignorant. The situation was not set up, right? Shinhyuk, turning around, whispered that he understood her suspicion, but she thought that he would really put on an act. He thought, Sora hardly heard of the Chinese branch, Chinatown or Maylene. Then the worker folded his arms and said that they have the goods. How will he pay for it? The protagonist turned around and asked, do they accept cards? He smiled. Cards? What do we think? He laughed and added, he sees that he is their joker. MC said, 3 months. The worker said that they do not accept cards, and they certainly do not have installments. But before he could finish speaking, the protagonist punched him in the face, knocking out a tooth, and repeated, he said 3 months. Sora looked at this in surprise. Shinyuk thought about punching the opponent with his fist, hitting the hippocampus and the temporal lobe. This blow causes memory loss. He should use this method if necessary. If he is not sure whether it worked or the blow, he should try to feel if there is an intracerebral hemorrhage. Then he put his fingers on the head of the merchant lying on the floor and said, well, hemorrhage. He thought that he would wake up as a vegetable, but he did not feel sorry for him at all. Then he asked, so what? Does she still believe in the organization and thinks that he set everything up? She said in surprise, how did he manage to do it? Since when does he know about everything? He replied that he had joined the organization for a similar reason, but he needed to understand what kind of place it was. While working in China, he had learned that Antas was involved in the production and distribution of illegal substances. He thought that he had actually read everything from the 3rd volume of the novel. It seemed that this person was trading here alone, but just in case, he had to leave before witnesses appeared. The protagonist would not report this place to the police, he just needed to convince Sora. Most likely, the organization would simply replace the dealer, so nothing would affect the change in the future. However, if anyone found out about the interference of outsiders, Antas would start an investigation. After that, Sora sighed and said it was all true. She would inform the organization about his departure. He was a real thorn in one place, but he should know that there would be no turning back. He thanked her for letting him go. Then she walked forward, and he added, "Wait a minute, she is not going to leave with him?" Even after finding out the truth, she decided to stay in Antas? She turned around and said that unlike him, she had been in the organization for a long time. She had missions, she knew a lot of things. They wouldn't leave her alone if she decided to just leave the organization. She was right, Antas was an international criminal organization. Yes, he was new there, but still, it wasn't some school club that you could join and leave whenever you wanted. He remembered Shin Hyuk's request and thought that he couldn't leave her alone. He had to help in some way. No, that wasn't right. If Sora left Antas, it would greatly affect the future. She had to stay in the organization until her identity was revealed to the protagonist. Then he asked if there were any missions among hers that could get her imprisoned. She put her hand to her forehead and replied that there weren't any. She was currently recruiting students with skills. But it takes a long time, so she hasn't really done anything yet. He sighed and said, "Okay, they'll do it this way. From now on, she'll be a double agent." She was surprised. A double agent? He explained, she'll be gathering dirt on the organization so she can get away with it in the future. In the end, she'll be the person who did minor errands for Antas and didn't commit any crimes. She said, but right now she doesn't have any information that could help the police. He put his hand on his chest and said that in that case, she needs to get it. If she gets into trouble, it will all be against her. The organization might take more drastic measures by eliminating. No, he thought he shouldn't say that. She smiled sheepishly and said that he really did like her. He wondered at what point they changed the subject. Then she leaned over and added that he clearly wouldn't have helped her if he didn't have feelings for her. He shook his head and waved his hand, saying that she could think whatever she wanted. Oh, and she should go back to Seoul on her own. She pointed at herself and asked if he was dumping her. He said he had to go somewhere. She asked if he was playing hard to get now. He thought she was annoying him. After a while, he came to Chai Yuryang, and he noticed that he was late. His clear eyes returned. It seemed that things were going well in the outside world. The protagonist bowed and said that it was all thanks to him. The teacher confirmed that it was true. Now they would move on to the punishment for being late. He hoped that he was ready for today's training. MC had already opened his backpack and said, by the way, he was in Chinatown today, so he brought bamboo liquor as an apology. But since the training was going to be hard, he shouldn't drink. Yuryang said that in fact, today was his day off. After that, the teacher drank the drink and said that bamboo liquor was the thing. And the mapo tofu was so delicious. How did he know that he was from Sichuan province? How did the protagonist notice that someone was indignant a moment ago that he was late? The teacher replied that he was just worried about him. The protagonist thought that if he was just a little more nervous, he would have definitely beaten him up. Yuryang then asked if he was really okay. He had been trying to shirk his training this whole time, but he was working hard today despite the day off he had declared. He wouldn't be surprised if the sun turned square. The MC swung his sword and said that his advice had helped him a lot, and he had bought him a treat as a token of his gratitude, so he should enjoy it. He remembered what he had said to Sora and thought that while helping her, he didn't know what kind of dangers he would face, but he needed to be stronger in case of unexpected situations, since the story of Sora being a double agent would not appear in the plot. He was strong enough to defeat a near A-rank hunter, but if he had to face a big shot like Maylene, the outcome could be very sad. He had completely forgotten that he was actually just a B-rank swordsmanship instructor. Helping someone in his situation is too much for him. But that's only for now. Lee Ji-sung's first opportunity is a book containing the skill of strengthening internal energy. Ji-sung begins to hone the contents of the secret book by pouring various elixirs into himself, thereby becoming stronger. Unlike him, who needed time, the path to his dantian was opened directly. The teacher, while enjoying the dish, said, "Whoever cooked this, he is a true master of his craft." If you think about it, the strongest in this world is an old man. By continuing to learn from him, he will be able to protect himself no matter what happens. Then the teacher called him and said that he ran out of ramen, he should buy a few packs and grab some noodles with black sauce. Shin-hyuk thought, patience, this glutton is the strongest creature in this world. Then he replied, okay, he will buy some next time. The teacher added that he should not forget the chips. The protagonist agreed again. Then Uriang took out the sauces from the instant noodles package and started to cook it. The smell of the dish reached the protagonist and he shouted, stop eating already. The teacher asked, what is it? Should I share with him? He was indignant. Last time he bought a whole box. Now it was clear why everything ended so quickly. Uriang said, he's just here alone all the time and eats out of boredom. Then he hit the student on the head and shouted, and anyway, what is he yelling about? He can't understand him. He hasn't been hungry for several hundred years like him. The protagonist shouted in pain, and he said that he was glad that he had motivation, but if he hurried, all his efforts would be in vain. The protagonist, putting his hand to the bruised place, said that he understood everything, but it seemed to him that he was not paying attention to the learning process at all. He replied that he was doing pretty well himself. He just needed to remember not to rush into greatness. MC said that he had been training with him for a month now, but he felt no progress at all. The teacher asked why he suddenly needed to become strong. He replied that with all due respect, he wanted to tell him to pay more attention to him and not to the ramen. If he wasn't going to teach him properly, did he have some tricks up his sleeve? He'd probably give him some elixirs or something. But before he could finish speaking, Urian hit him on the head and yelled, Ignoramus. He was actually praising him here. The protagonist grabbed his head and started rolling around in the snow, and the teacher said, it's only been a month? He's already expecting results? He thinks he can unite the world with that kind of strength? MC looked at him, blushing with anger. The teacher clenched his fist and asked, what? He wants more? He's arguing with him here. Then he sighed and added, as he had already told him, martial arts are not something to rush. He would never neglect his training because he was distracted by food. The protagonist said, ramen, come to think of it, he won't be able to buy ramen anymore. The prices of food have gone up. The teacher asked in surprise, what? Was he trying to blackmail him? He said, no blackmail, he was just telling it like it is. He probably won't be able to buy noodles in black sauce either. By the way, all the chips he buys him are popular. It will be hard to get even one pack. Uriang put his hand to his face and pointed at him, saying, it seems he didn't fully see his enthusiasm. In the press, he will be next to him, teaching him everything properly, okay? Shin-hyuk said, then he will try to get the food he likes too. Then he continued, they will return to training. But he shouldn't complain if it's too hard. The protagonist agreed, okay, he's counting on him, teacher. The next day at lunchtime, the MC was looking at his phone screen. Sora sent him a message in the morning. She told him that she did everything. He managed to leave Antus safely. He wondered if there was anything else Shin-hyuk didn't know. He would help Sora and start enjoying a carefree life. At that moment, Unseo and Unsu came to him, and one of them asked, teacher, did something good happen to him? He said that they scared him. Aren't they going to lunch? Seo said that they were going to the cafeteria. Today's lunch is pork chop with cheese. Her sister added he should eat with them, and then they would go to the assembly hall together. He wondered why they would go to the assembly hall. She asked, teacher, did he forget what the vice principal said at the morning meeting? He's going to give an interview for the school broadcast. Sora's message distracted him. He completely forgot about what happened that morning. Sue added that the vice principal said that he should do the interview first because he has a good image. He asked who decides the image. She said the vice principal, of course. He asked where he had heard of such a thing. She said he didn't seem to know, but if the interview goes well, he might get bonuses. He said that made sense. She handed him the questions and said that Sue would be filming a video. One of the teachers would edit it. Here are the questions. He should take a look at it during lunch. He took the sheet in his hands and said how serious it was, just like a real show. Seo said that the principal would check the interview before they posted it on the channel, so he should try hard. He said that he hoped that they would work well together. Now they should go to lunch or else things will cool off. The sisters walked forward and said, okay. Then Seo came up to him and said that she completely forgot to say something else. He asked, what is it? She said that she and the student council president will be interviewing him. They will ask questions according to the script, but the student council president is a bit of a weirdo, so she might ask something weird. He smiled and said that as long as the questions are not about his personal life, it will be fine. She added that he just needs to remember that she is not an ordinary person. If something does not go according to plan, he should not worry at all. He laughed and said, okay, they should film it so that it comes out well on video. He thought, the student council president, in his time, the student council president was like a mythical creature to him. He can't wait to meet her. Meanwhile, Kim Sejin, holding swords in her hands, said, Swordsmanship instructor Shin-hyuk. She heard that he is very strong. Interesting. What is he like? Most students at hunting schools live in dormitories. They spend most of their time at school, but the children go home during the holidays. Of course, parents are often interested in their children's school life. It is said that for safety reasons, they are not allowed to leave the dormitory on weekends. Many people believe that hunter schools greatly restrict students' freedom, so the administration solved this problem by opening a channel on a video hosting site. Of course, the innovation was not implemented immediately, and their school was used as a guinea pig. The protagonist opened the door, sighed, and thought that there was no mention of a channel on a video hosting site in the novel, so he thought that this moment would disappear on its own, but it turned out that he had to give an interview for the channel. When he walked into the room, the leading technical specialist Min Jiwi noticed that he was early. He greeted her and said that he hoped that they would work together. She smiled awkwardly and, adjusting her hair, said that she was just editing. He laughed and said that he was a little nervous since this was his first interview. By the way, he didn't know she was doing editing. That's cool. Jiwi clapped her hands and said, "What's wrong? The director just asked her to do it since she's a techie." He thought she was probably busy anyway. She then added, "Of course, it's not paid, so she'll finish it quickly and go home. Maybe she'll get a bonus if the video gets a lot of views." He thought that's the reason why they didn't mention the video hosting service in the novel. Sue then set up the camera and said it was ready. Her sister smiled and said, "Great, the student council president is just in time." Jiwi waved her hand and said they were here. MC looked at the student council president. She walked forward and said hello, noticing that they were all already gathered. He thought, how tall is she? She's just over 170 centimeters tall. She looks confident. Anyone who looks at her would immediately assume that she is the student council president. He was surprised that this character was not mentioned at all in the novel. Then she approached the main character and said hello. He is a teacher, Shinyuk? He was very handsome. She was looking forward to the interview. She hoped that they would get along well. The main character smiled, waved at her, and said that he was too. He thought that she had great social skills. She looked quite normal. He did not see any of the oddities that Sue had mentioned. After that, the interview began. It started smoothly. Seo continued to compliment his appearance, so the tension quickly eased. The atmosphere became cozy. After a while, the student said that she was very sorry, but there were no more questions. Now it was time to send Teacher Kang home. They had no classes after lunch today. They apologized for keeping him. He smiled awkwardly and thought, closing speech. Is the interview coming to an end? He said, no need to apologize. He was also sorry that the interview was ending. All this was done for the sake of the students. But he's still going to ask the school to pay him for the extra strong ones. He gave a thumbs up with a smile, and Seo was surprised. What? He laughed and said it was just a joke. Jiwi covered her smile with her hand and said that she would also make a request for extra payment. Then the student council president called him over, and he asked what was wrong. She asked, did he say he was sorry? She was sure the audience would be upset too if it ended like this. She knew it was a sudden request, but could he please duel her? Jiwi smiled awkwardly and said that it was quite sudden. Seo added, very. The protagonist thought they would end there. Could this be the eccentric side of his personality that Seo was talking about? Jiwi, addressing Seijin, said, President, she didn't tell the teacher about this beforehand. She replied, but Teacher Kang was sorry that the interview would end like this, so she decided to fix it. She apologized if she shocked him, but she has long had an interest in duels, and he just happens to be their swordsmanship teacher. MC thought that it seemed to him that Seijin had no bad intentions. Then Sue looked at the camera screen and said, we need to film the conclusion. Then the protagonist said, wait a minute, he doesn't mind. Seo asked, is he really agreeing to a duel without even preparing? He confirmed it. Did she prepare the swords? Seijin answered, of course. She has 2 iron swords for training. He asked when she managed to bring it. She replied that she prepared the swords in case there was a chance. She is grateful to him, teacher. He sighed and thought, a duel with a student. Shinyuk originally had some pretty good physical skills, but now he is being taught by Yuryang. It would be fair to say that he is also a student now, a great chance to see if there is progress. Seo looked at Jiwi, who had an irritated atmosphere, and realized that they would be staying here for a long time. After a while, they prepared the popcorn and were ready to watch. Seijin started to tie her hair in a ponytail, and Shinyuk thought, honestly, he's not worried at all. After the battle with Teacher Jung, he realized that the quality of the hunters is actually lower than he thought. He told him not to be distracted. If the teacher was here, he would definitely do this. Yes, his opponent is a student, but she is a senior, and also the student council president. She can't let her guard down. He thinks that Seijin is at the beginner level of a hunter now. He then gestured with his fingers and told her to attack first. She confidently grabbed the hilt of her sword and told him to get ready to attack. The next second, she suddenly ran forward. Sue, clenching her fist, shouted, "Wow, so fast." Her sister was indignant. She shouldn't use such words. The protagonist looked at the approaching student and thought that she was definitely faster than the first years. But he noticed something unusual. He thought that Saijin would attack him with an intermittent diagonal slash, because that was the basis for swordmasters, but she ducked when she attacked, which showed a lot of confidence. The next second, he tilted his head to the side, dodging the sword, and thought that a normal student would have panicked and backed off a long time ago. Then the student council president jumped back, and after that, she swung her sword again. MC, having dodged again, thought that now she was using an upward slash, not bad. She continued to strike. He blocked her attacks again and dodged. The next moment she shouted, "How long is he going to dodge?" He dodged again and remembered the words of the teacher, who laughed and shouted that he warned that the training would be grueling. He thought that the teacher had beaten all the bad out of him. His body still hurt. He could easily avoid the student's attack even with his eyes closed. Then he said, "Seijin, her body is leaning forward too much. She is too focused on the attack." She shouted that she has not shown everything yet. Then she swung her sword again, but the protagonist was behind her and said, "What if she was attacked from the other side? Would she be able to handle it?" He remembered how the teacher told him, "Ignorant idiot." He would have killed him 5 times already. If he puts so much strength into his arms and legs, he will get tired very quickly, he thought. Just remembering what happened makes him shake all over. The teacher could have cut him long ago, but with his character, he would rather take the opportunity to beat him up. After that, he pointed his finger at the hand that held the sword and said that she puts too much strength into her arms and legs, which makes her tired very quickly. Her attacks will be much better once she starts using her shoulders. She looked at the weapon in her hands in surprise, and then held the hilt of the sword more confidently. He thought, she accepted his advice so quickly. The atmosphere changed just because he adjusted her technique. The president is different from the other students. He then pointed his finger at himself and said, "Seijin, he will be the one attacking now. She should prepare herself." Jiwi took the popcorn with a trembling hand and then ate it. MC said that he was coming and went to attack, but the next second, Seijin told him to wait. He froze in place and asked, "What's the matter? Is she injured?" She replied, "That's not the case, teacher. Can she use mana?" "Of course she won't use it as a weapon." He scratched his neck and replied, "Wow, students have access to mana?" She explained that at the end of the second year they start visiting portals. She has already gotten used to working with mana. Indeed, before graduation, students begin to visit F and E rank portals, accompanied by school teachers and hunters. He thought that he was sure that her mana level was low, but it was still impressive. He noticed the difference in speed between her and the other kids. He was curious to see what she could do. Then he agreed she could use mana. She put her sword in front of her and released mana, thanking him. He thought that during the duel with Teacher Zhang, he never got to see the use of mana in action. Now was a good opportunity to test his strength against mana. He saw the president run past him and then point her sword at him, but he had time to put his weapon out to block her attack. He thought that his hands were tingling. It was hard for him without internal energy. She did not infuse her weapon with mana, but her physical abilities had improved greatly. It was hard to believe that a student could achieve such a large amount of mana through practice. Mana accumulates in the body the more monsters are defeated. In this world, it will not accumulate indefinitely. Rather, people have a capacity proportional to their skills. The teacher would say that mana is like internal energy. He took Shinyuk's existing mana and converted it completely into internal energy. He is confident that this is much more effective than normal mana. In order to maintain his image as a teacher, he must defeat the student without using internal energy. After a few attacks, he could already see a pattern. She struck again, and he continued to dodge, saying that the problem with hunters was that their sword attacks were too simple and obvious. This was because they fought monsters with low intelligence. It was also why hunters could barely handle high-level intelligent monsters. She had to look. Seijin, she was already exhausted. Sweat was indeed dripping down her face, and he added that she had slowed down enough that he could easily anticipate her next attack. She ran forward again, spinning the hilt of her sword in her hand, and he thought, a sword strike in the opposite direction. He said that now she was trying to do anything, already knowing the outcome. He stepped aside, and Seijin fell to the floor, and he said that the distance was too close for a strike. She then crouched down and grabbed her reddened knee. The next second, the protagonist pointed his sword at her, and she realized that she had lost. He looked at her and thought that she looked upset. And this student is very competitive. He then said, "Great speech for the student council president, but her sword is too simple." He extended his hand to her and said, "Mana is great for enhancing her physical abilities, especially strength, but she will become much better if she hones her sword skills and doesn't rely on mana all the time." She put her hand in his and thanked him. He helped her a lot. Jiwi suddenly trembled and said, "Damn it." So looked at her and wondered, "What's wrong, teacher?" She replied, "If the channel grows, she will always stay late." A week after the interview was posted, everything became very tiring. The MC came to class and listened to requests from students who asked him to sign 10 sheets. He replied that he did not have an autograph. They asked him to just scribble his name. And the reason for the chaos was the video of the duel with the student council president. Then he sighed while signing another autograph and said that he was thinking of the autograph in his free time. He would finish this autograph and they would immediately go to warm up. They should finish their preparations. Lee Jinsu, he should go to stretch. After that, he handed him the autograph and asked, "Is that okay?" He should take it. He looked at the autograph and happily thanked him. Then he added, he thought of the autograph well. After that, the protagonist said, "So, they should warm up. Jinsu, he should command." He raised his hand and shouted, "Attention." However, nothing will change financially. Of course, he will not be paid a penny for the video. He began to go about his daily business, but completely forgot that the internet is a real jungle. One day, he began to read the comments, which said, "Is this battle real?" He thinks this is the best video he has seen. What's all the fuss about? This is just a normal fight between a potential hunter and a school teacher. This happens all the time. If you look closely, the teacher doesn't use anything but a sword. He's incredible. The girl in the video is famous for winning a martial arts competition twice in a row. They say there are students who get A rank after graduating. Who is this Shin-yuk? This is the first time he sees him. Really? Who is he? It seems like he just graduated himself. The question of who is he kept repeating in the protagonist's mind, and he asked in surprise, "What is this all about?" He thought, if the student council president was a promising hunter, then why was she never mentioned in the novel? Even after Jisung graduated, the character named Seijin never showed up. At that moment, Park Hyun-suk came up to him and asked how he felt about becoming a video star. The protagonist turned to him and, laughing, wished him a good morning. He held the glass in his hands and reciprocated it. Then he placed the glass of coffee next to Shin-hyuk and said, "It's good to be famous." "He shouldn't be so shy, Teacher Kang." He laughed again and thanked him for the coffee. At first, he liked this popularity, but now he feels some pressure. Hyun-suk laughed and said that he has a great personality, but he is too passive. He should be a celebrity with his appearance. The MC asked him not to make fun of him. He just wants to live a quiet life. He took a sip of coffee and said that it's good, but he thinks that he won't live a quiet life today. The protagonist was surprised. What does he mean? He replied that on the way here, he ran into the vice principal. He asked him to send him to him. The protagonist looked at him in surprise and asked, "The vice principal? What does he want from him?" He replied that he doesn't know. Maybe he wants to give him a raise? Anyway, he needs to go to him. He's probably in his lab right now. MC stood up from his seat and added, "Extra money is good, thank you, he'll go." The teacher replied, "If the bonus is significant, he'll have to treat them." Soju is on him. After a while, the protagonist walked down the hallway and thought, what a strange feeling. Bonuses are usually announced in front of other teachers at a meeting. Such matters are not discussed in person in his lab. Because of the excessive attention, he feels a little uneasy. What worried him most was the call to the vice principal. He stood next to the lab and knocked on the door, thinking he is the strongest in the hunter school. The vice principal asked, "Is Shin-hyuk's teacher?" "He can come in. He is one of Korea's 10 S-rank hunters, Kim Man-dong." When the protagonist entered, the vice principal said that it was the first time they had seen each other since the interview, and that he was glad to see him. Shin-hyuk bowed and thought, unfortunately, he was not there for the interview. He feels a lot of pressure. He said, "Good morning." Man-dong asked, "A cup of tea?" He said no need, he was grateful to him. He would have to leave soon to prepare for class. The vice principal folded his hands in front of his face and said, "Is that so?" Then he would get straight to the point. He pointed to the bag that was standing next to him and said, "Everything in there is his." The protagonist looked at it and thought, "A whole bag of letters?" He then took one of the letters in his hand and smiled awkwardly, saying, "It looks like a letter from fans." Man-dong laughed and said, if he was curious, he could read one out loud. Many were impressed by the video of the duel between him and the Seijin student. These are all letters from other schools, also from active hunters from fairly large guilds. The video was published for promotional purposes, also to demonstrate school life, but it attracted a lot of attention. For the guild, confronting Teacher Kang would be more effective than any advertising. He thought, it's crazy, such a salary increase. The deputy added, all 923 letters have similar contents. They all want to fight him. The protagonist, looking at the letter, asked, did he make a mistake somewhere? He answered that it was not so. He did nothing wrong. Everyone just wanted to deprive him of glory. Perhaps the fact that he did not study at the hunter school played a role. He thought, how did they all know about this? Man-dong added, he probably knows that some of the teachers dislike him. It seems that one of them spread information about him. The problem is that the negative comments go beyond all bounds. Some write that the merits of the student council president are now in question. Now the careers of Seijin and her rivals are in doubt. They are suspected of rigged duels. He thought, being a third-rate writer in the past, he still remembered the taste of pain from insults. Damn haters exist even in this world. As a teacher, he has to stop everything, because if the interview had gone according to plan, none of this would have happened. After that, the vice principal said that they would have to close their video hosting channel. It's too bad. They started all this for the sake of the children's parents being able to watch their school life. And in the end, some of them were harmed. What is he going to do about it? MC clutched the letter in his hand and said that he thought it was time to clear up the doubts. Mandong asked if he could find out how exactly he was going to proceed. He replied, "It's simple, the vice principal. He is sure that among all the haters, there are those who sent a request for a duel. He will only choose high-level and popular hunters for the duel." The vice principal asked if he is confident in his victory. There are a lot of A-rank hunters among the senders. He can very well refuse them, since their ranks do not match. The protagonist looked at him seriously and replied, "It's for the best. He will only choose A-rank representatives." Mandong asked if he thinks that after defeating the strongest candidates, the weak ones will be eliminated on their own. He punched and said, "It's a bit cruel, but that's the truth. They will be realistic. There is no way he can handle all the candidates." The deputy said, "Great, by the way, Teacher Shinyuk, how does he like the idea of sparring with him?" Shinyuk was surprised. Is this old man crazy? He thought, it seems he didn't quite understand him. Then he said, it seems he didn't quite understand him, and thought, is this old man crazy? The deputy said that he heard everything. Then he thought, well, isn't he right? How can a B rank fight an S rank? He replied that he understood why he would think he was crazy. He watched his duel with Teacher Zheng. To be honest, he was sure that he would lose, but he was surprised by him. Besides, it seemed to him that he didn't show his full potential. Judging by his behavior, he is confident enough to handle A-rank hunters, or even higher. The protagonist was sure that this is not the case. He is only confident in confronting A-rank hunters. The vice principal knows very well that starting from the S rank, everything is different. In fact, there are only about 1,000 A-rank hunters in Korea, so they cannot be taken too lightly. Teacher Zhang only claimed to be an A-rank hunter, but he was not one. Of course, thanks to the old man's lessons, he became even stronger, and considering the difference between hunters and martial artists, he is confident that he can handle A ranks. However, S ranks, there are only 10 people in the country, less than 100 worldwide. S rank magicians are equated with tactical weapons. Hunters who use various abilities are called superhumans. Mandong is still one of the strongest representatives of the S rank. In the novel, there is an episode in which Jisung challenges the vice principal and, of course, loses to him. Or rather, Jisung is swatted like a fly. Of course, unlike the main character, who only learns skills related to internal energy, he learns martial arts directly from a master. The old man told him that it was much better than consuming elixirs and spiritual plants. However, no matter how much he thought about it, he could defeat an S-rank hunter. The next second, he was interrupted from his thoughts by the deputy director, who called him. The protagonist apologized. He felt ashamed of what he blurted out. Then Mandong extended his hand forward and told him to just think about it. Wouldn't it be better to duel him instead of the incomprehensible A-rank hunters? After the end, he would announce that he was good. Then no one would submit applications for a fight anymore. They could settle this issue once and for all. MC asked, is he serious? He replied, of course, he couldn't cover for him if he was defeated in a fight with one of the candidates. He didn't expect him to defeat him. It would be enough to land at least one blow on him. The protagonist thought, one hit? That's an impossible condition. He read that Mandong's body can even repel an attack from the Aurora sword. The vice principal noticed he was more timid than he thought. Teacher Kang. He then folded his arms and asked, how about his proposal? If he successfully lands one attack, he will be exempt from the 3-week training that new teachers go through during school breaks. The protagonist was surprised. Exemption? And then the vice principal added, it sounds tempting, right? The 3-week training involves interacting with other teachers. He is sure that for him, a person who did not graduate from the hunter school, such an event will be a thorn in one place. Of course, pay will be accrued during this period. MC was surprised. 3 weeks of paid leave. He then said that he heard that the 3-week training is organized by the Hunter Association. Can he really exempt him? He replied, there is an outstanding teacher program in which they select 2 teachers every semester. They are just about to be excused from training. So, is he interested? The protagonist thought, of course, 3 weeks of paid leave. Mandong added, if they want to be seen by a large number of people, they need to find the best time for the duel. The presidential election is next week, so the fight will take place in a month. Shin-hyuk noted that the vacation will be approaching by then. He added, That's right, but if he shows up at the appointed time and says that he refuses the duel, he will be in big trouble. The MC stated that he gives his word. Mandong sighed and replied, great, he will also keep his promise. Well, now, he can go to class. After a while, the protagonist closed the door behind him and thought, a month, he needs to find a way so that he can attack Mandong during the duel. At first glance, the conditions he offered seemed too good. But if you think about it, you will realize how reckless it is. If it was Murim, then Mandong would at least be an absolute master. Even the Vajra strongmen would not be able to match him in strength. And he, a hunter who is not in the top league, should be able to land at least one blow on this monster. It would be like delivering a star from the sky. Then he sighed and said, he could say he made a deal with the devil. But sometimes you have to do that. Yes, his goal is still to live a comfortable life, but he will not be able to sleep peacefully, knowing that his actions have negatively affected someone's life. The next second, a system window appeared in front of him, informing him that an extra chapter had opened. From this moment, the story of Shinhyuk, the tamer of the vice principal, begins. He thought, the tamer of the vice principal? What a title. But it doesn't matter. If such a chapter exists, he believes that he will still be able to land a blow on him. He is sure that the old man knows some way. After a while, Yuryang firmly stated that it was impossible, crazy. MC, kneeling, said he asked him not to refuse him. He must help him. He replied, even if he had a dragon on his side, he would not succeed. Sword, what was it called? The protagonist replied, the Aurora sword. The old man said that the power of this sword is equal to the sword dance skill. It turns out that he needs to master the skill, which in their language is called aura. The protagonist clarified, the sword's aura? He confirmed it. There is a limit to everything. How is he going to defeat the absolute master at the peak of his development? The most he can do in his current state is to cut off a few hairs from his chest. Even if he uses all sorts of amplifiers, it will not work. The protagonist looked at him in surprise and asked, teacher, could he tell me what kind of amplifiers? He shouted, this is what he always talks about. Spiritual herbs or elixirs, although 300-year-old ginseng roots can help one gain the power equal to the sword aura. Shinhyuk said, that's it. The next second, the teacher punched him in the head and shouted at him not to even think. He will become as strong as an absolute master, but he might be able to land one hit. The protagonist smiled and said, one hit is what he needs. One hit is enough for him. Then he smiled and thanked the teacher and said that it was time for him to go back. Yuryang asked, where is he going? He answered, he said that he needed 3 ginseng roots and it's not cheap. He asked, where is he going to get it? He walked up to the portal and shouted, in the outside world, money is in charge. The new president will be elected next week. He will be back soon. After some time, Sora was looking at something on her phone and asked, what is this? After leaving Antas, Shinhyuk never contacted her. By the way, he became popular because of his video hosting channel. Maybe he found himself a girlfriend? At that moment, he called her, and she said, of course, he has no one but her. She answered the call and greeted him. He called her by name and asked, what is she doing? She asked, she is at home reading books. So what is this? He asked with a happy look. Could she lend him some money? He doesn't need that much, just 100 million. She immediately ended the call, which confused him a little. She immediately turned off her phone with a serious expression. He thought, of course, he won't be able to find a 10,000-year-old fire carp or a 1,000-year-old ginseng. But, as far as he knows, there is wild ginseng in this world. Out of all the variety, there is one that can be considered a spiritual plant. This is heavenly ginseng. The only problem is the crazy price. Young ginseng that is less than 100 years old costs tens of millions, and older ginseng costs more than 100 million won. Jisung, who came from a wealthy family, ate ginseng every day, but Mandong defeated him right away. The teacher said that it was because he only ate the spiritual plant, but did not absorb its energy properly. In his case, he can only eat one root, after which the master will help him absorb the energy. The problem is the money. He has 300 million, but buying 3 will ruin him. However, he remembered the vice director's words. He said earlier that if they wanted to be seen by a large number of people, they needed to choose the best time for the duel. The presidential election was next week, so the fight would take place in a month. The protagonist said with a wide, sly smile that no matter what anyone said, the best thing about elections was the investment. He thought that he hadn't thought about it at all since he was solving problems with Antas, and now with the video hosting service. He just wanted a quiet life. Presidential election, National Assembly member, Genesis smuggling, making money off of the destruction of the world. He had been using the knowledge of the novel since day one, so why not neglect stocks? He entered the bank and the employee said that he had been approved for a loan, to which she congratulated him. He thanked her with a small smile and thought that being a third-rate writer in his past life, he was on the blacklist of all banks. But now, in this body, he had already received a loan. He knows that Jun Seok, who is backed by Inhak, will be knocked out of the presidential race and will be defeated by his rival Chulwan. The MC walked outside with a confident look and said that he will pay off the loans later and wish good luck to the future president. After some time, the courier stopped in front of the door and placed many pizza boxes on the floor. He said with a small smile that a delivery for teacher Shinyuk had arrived, 42 pizzas. As thanks, he receives drinks from the house. He laughed and said that he could bring the pizza inside. The students were surprised by this, called him over and asked what it was. His assets were 1,486,531,251. He said with a very satisfied expression that it was pizza, and that they could help themselves. The students were very surprised and happy about this, and said that when he grew up, he wanted to be like him. He was not allowed to call his teacher disrespectfully. He looked at them with a satisfied expression, and thought that his assets had increased by 500%. Initially, Jin-seok, who was backed by In-hak, had a huge advantage. However, shortly before the election, a scandal broke out, and his opponent's popularity among the people increased sharply. This is called the miracle of loans and knowledge of information. He said with a smile that they could eat as much as they wanted. If anything happened, he would buy them some medicine for indigestion. The students looked at him, and one of them asked if something good had happened. The protagonist said that he was just having fun with the stocks. In other news, the day before the start of the vacation, he will have a duel with the vice principal. What he heard greatly surprised all the students who heard it, and they loudly asked the teacher, "Is he completely crazy? Is he serious? And is he really going to fight that monster Mandong?" He asked, "How dare she call the vice principal by just his first name?" Of course, he is no match for him. However, the vice principal said that in order to win, he only needs to land one effective blow. The students asked, "I wonder if he will be able to do it?" "This is very sad. The teacher is going to die." He said with a smile that in any case they should eat. Perhaps this will be the last pizza he buys them. He thought that now that the presidential election is over, Mandong will start spreading word of the duel. The reason he decided to tell the children everything was to drive a wedge. People need to know the winning condition for the duel so that the vice principal does not say anything unnecessary. Successful investment, helping Yuryang. Now the duel itself remains. All energy will be directed towards him. The deputy director must be looking forward to it. After a while, in the mountains, he asked, "Did he prepare everything?" MC agreed with the gentleman and said that there were 3 boxes of ramen, 5 boxes of chips, 2 boxes, and 2 packs of soda. He bought all the instant noodles from the store. He said with a slight smile that this was great. His sincerity was amazing. Did he prepare food for himself too? He agreed and said that it was not easy to get it. These are 3 roots of heavenly ginseng that are more than 100 years old. He looked at it and said that he actually managed to do it. He once managed to eat 300-year-old ginseng. The ginseng he bought was a little worse, but he could rest assured that all of these roots had become older. He looked to the side with a slight grin and said that someone told him not to rely on all sorts of elixirs and herbs. Yuryang pretended not to hear him and asked if he said something. He said nothing. He was glad that he appreciated this ginseng. He looked at him and said that he should eat it quickly and stand with his back to him. He bowed to him and thanked his teacher. Shinyuk did everything he was told and began to feel the energy around him and thought that he felt a strong warmth. The only ginseng he had ever eaten in his life was in chicken soup. He would never pay 100 million for a plant unnecessarily. Yuryang said that instead of trying to resist the energy he was pouring in, he should accept it. It shouldn't be too difficult since they had learned the same techniques. He thought that if the volume of his internal energy vessel before taking ginseng could hold a few drops of water, now it was like constantly scooping up water. After a few cycles, he had already stopped scooping up water, and it felt like he was being washed away by a river. The master said that he wanted to ask him something. The ginseng he brought was undoubtedly real and powerful. It must have been very expensive. Somehow, he managed to accumulate enough wealth to buy all 3 roots. The protagonist laughed, agreed, and said that he had made a lot of money. Yuryang asked if this meant that he could quit his job now. Why did he continue to try so hard to become stronger? He said with a small smile that he had recently taken on several responsibilities. He had to save a colleague who had fallen into bad company, and because of him, one of his students had suffered a bad reputation. It would be easier for him to quit and focus on his own life. However, he would not be able to sleep peacefully knowing the whole truth. He said with a small smile that it seemed that he was not mistaken about him. He turned to him and asked what this meant. He said that he could ignore it. By the way, the ginseng turned out to be much better than he thought. This could have been the end of it, but he would give him a gift. It might hurt a little further, but he had to endure it. MC was about to ask something about it, but at that moment he felt a very strong energy in his body. He was struck by lightning and started screaming loudly in pain. He gritted his teeth and thought, what did he do to deserve such pain? He asked the old man loudly, why did he do this to him? Yuryang said that he had told him to endure it. He had to stop screaming and focus. He continued to endure the pain and thought, what is he even doing? He wants to tell him to stop, but he can't do it because of the pain. It's like pulling teeth without anesthesia. The internal energy he injects into him is different from the previous one. He feels like there was a wall inside him that the teacher is trying to break down. Why inject energy where there wasn't any in the first place? It had been a long time since such a powerful energy had been poured into him. In an instant, he felt something crack inside him. Yuryang asked why such a young guy's body had become so stagnant. Shinyuk was tired of the pain and thought that he didn't know what it was, but he definitely wouldn't survive it a second time. He called the teacher and asked, "Is it over, right?" Yuryang began pouring energy into his body again with a smile and said that he was wrong. This is just the beginning. After some time, he came to his senses after losing consciousness and said loudly that he would sue him. Yuryang calmly ate ramen and said that the soup from this dish turned out especially delicious. It seems that he has recovered. Doesn't he want to eat a little? He looked at him with a displeased look and asked loudly what he did to his body. He didn't explain anything and just said to be patient. Did he do something wrong? This is some kind of mockery. He got mad at this and said loudly that he tried his best to help him. What kind of attitude is this anyway? He was once again convincing everyone that he was an ignorant jerk. He tried to punch him, but the protagonist laughed and dodged his punch. He felt embarrassed by what had happened and wondered if he had been able to dodge it. This caught Yuryang's attention, and he said that he hadn't been able to do that in the past. He called the teacher and asked if he could hit him again. He got mad at this and started kicking him and asked loudly if he had gained confidence after eating ginseng. Now, he should try to dodge it. He screamed loudly in pain and said that he hadn't meant it that way and was asking for forgiveness. After that, they calmed down and he asked the teacher if he could tell him what he had done. Yuryang said that the medicinal properties of ginseng were said to be quite powerful. It would be a shame not to reveal it fully. So he used it to pierce the arteries. MC thought he read about it in a martial arts novel. The entire circulatory system runs through the very center of the body. When the internal energy makes a large circle, it passes through the 12 main channels, after which the internal energy is able to circulate through the yin and yang veins. He said that now he understood why he was able to react quickly to his punches. Now he understands what that feeling was like, something cracked inside him. He thought that, however, in most martial arts novels the arteries are very difficult to pierce. He called the teacher and asked if this meant that he was now an absolute master. Yuryang looked at him and asked if he was making fun of him. How can a person standing with one foot at the beginner level become an absolute? Did he decide to jump 2 levels at once? Shinyuk dodged his punch and said that however he worked hard. He got a little angry and said that for dodging he would get hit twice. He delivered the 2 strikes he promised and asked, does he seriously think he worked hard? Actually, he did all the work. In exchange for eating the ginseng roots, he received a day of cultivation. He became angry about this and said loudly that he did say that it would be good for him. He agreed with a calm expression and said that it was good for breaking through his blood channels. In order to overcome the 2 stages, he would need at least 10,000-year-old ginseng or a dragon's heart without horns. Shinyuk thought with a displeased look. Does he think they are in the Miram world? Where can he get such artifacts? Yuryang said that he shouldn't be too hard on himself since he is making progress. He asked, does that mean he will be able to use the sword aura? He said with a slight smile that it is up to him. He did say that in order to defeat an opponent, he needs to deliver 1 effective strike, right? He agreed and said that this is exactly why he acquired the ginseng roots. 1 effective attack would be enough for him. He thought about it and asked what 1 hit meant to him. He was the only one in his world who had martial arts. He said with a serious expression that he shouldn't say that. He had no idea how strong S-rank hunters were. Yuryang asked if they were as strong as absolute masters, right? There were a lot of warriors at that level in his time. All the members of the largest sects at that time were the strongest warriors. The protagonist said that, however, something like that was rare now. When will they realize that the days of their world are long gone? Anyway, even if he loses the fight, he only needs to land 1 hit on his opponent. That's why he needs to start training quickly. He called him an idiot and said that was why he wouldn't succeed. Is he really willing to train even though he already knows he's going to lose? He was told that 1 hit was enough to defeat him. If it were him, that would have made him angry. He remembered what the vice principal had told him and said that if he thought about it, it really made him angry. He thought that the vice principal hadn't said that he lacked self-respect. He would only acknowledge him if he only dealt 1 blow. It wasn't about winning or losing. He had accepted the standards set by the vice principal as his limits. He told the teacher with a serious expression that he realized that his thinking was wrong, even though the vice principal had said that he would acknowledge him if he dealt 1 blow, but now he wanted to attack him 5 times. Yuryang said with a smile that 5 blows was 50 points. He asked the master with a calm expression, what points was he talking about? He laughed and said that he should follow him. He would show him something that would give him 100 points. He was surprised by this and said that he should tell him about it earlier. He said with a smile that this wasn't his martial art, so he should be careful about telling it. He didn't understand him and asked what he meant. Yuryang said that he had met a lot of people along the way, but there were only 2 of them that he could call friends. He would share something with him that his friend knew. MC asked what kind of skills he shared only with his friends. He said that he was being stupid. He didn't pass on his knowledge to anyone who wasn't his student. He had fought with one of his friends so many times that he had learned his martial arts. Stealing someone else's martial arts was a grave sin, but since he was the only one who knew martial arts in the outside world, it didn't matter. He asked if his friend was as strong as him. He said that he wasn't. He was weaker, but he was 1 level stronger than Shinhyuk. He was a little surprised by this and said that he was asking him to teach him faster. Yuryang agreed and said that he should use the knowledge he had learned to defeat his opponent. 1 week later, he asked why she called him. The last time she hung up in the middle of a conversation, Sora said with a smile that she didn't know he could get rich from stocks. The reason she wanted to meet was in medicine. He sat in front of her and asked if she was talking about the Genesis they got in Incheon, Chinatown. She agreed and said that she had received information that they had mainly traded in China, but recently they had been caught trying to enter the Korean and Japanese markets. She didn't think it was their fault, but she should have warned him. By the way, is the duel with the vice principal true? He said that it seemed like rumors had spread among the teachers. The pizza effect had worked perfectly. She said that it wasn't that. The information was on the notice board. He was a little surprised by that and read what was written there. An announcement about choosing outstanding teachers for the first semester. The decision about choosing outstanding teachers will be made after a dialogue with the vice principal. Benefits are granted depending on rank. You can apply in the vice principal's office. The application deadline is from today until the start of the school holidays. Current candidates, Swordsmanship Instructor. The protagonist read this and thought with a small smile that he had made a promise. Does the vice principal still think that he would refuse? She said that the school was in chaos. This caught his attention and he asked if something was wrong. Sora said that a student with a bruised face came to her this morning. When she asked who did it, he did not answer. This student continued to claim that he fell down the stairs. The other students did not want to say anything either, and this made her extremely angry. He asked if she found out who beat up the guy. She said that it was obvious. It was the worst student in middle school, Ji-sun. He was so surprised by this that he spat his drink in her face. He looked at her with a shocked expression and thought that this was the main character of the novel. She was very angry about what happened and asked if he had beaten him too, or what kind of reaction was that. MC was worried about this and said that he just choked. He just didn't think that things like this happened at school. How did this even happen? She sighed in displeasure and said that it was simple. His father is the president of Huashan Electronics, and his grandfather is the chairman of the Huashan conglomerate. He used his connections to deceive his classmates and her. He also acts disgusting during class. She really wants to do something about him. He thought that he ended up becoming the worst student at Hunter High. 2 years before the original novel, Ji-sun was the real problem during this time. In the story, she hated him. He said that he was a child after all. He thought that things would get better with age. Sora said loudly, with a displeased expression, that people don't change that easily. Shinhyuk thought that 2 years later, he would become a selfish and smug jerk, but he would be able to atone for the past. He said that she didn't know what could happen in the future, so she should calm down. She loudly refused and asked if he even understood how she felt. Knowing that this delinquent would transfer to high school no matter what, he wondered what she wanted from him. He just reincarnated as a supporting character. Hearing his name, he remembered that he was also a time traveler. Sora started eating the cake that the waiter brought her and said that she couldn't wait for the holidays so she wouldn't have to see his face. By the way, what was he planning on doing during the holidays? He said that he didn't even know. He might have to go to advanced training. She remembered something and asked if he was sure that everything would be okay. Only teachers who graduated from hunter schools would gather there. He said with a thoughtful look that there was a chance that he wouldn't have to go. He wasn't entirely sure yet. She said that new students were required to attend training. The protagonist said that the vice principal promised him freedom if he became an outstanding teacher. She thought about it and slammed her hands on the table and asked that crazy idiot loudly. That's why he agreed to the duel? He was surprised by that and said that it wasn't the main reason. Sora said in surprise that Mandong was one of the top 10 hunters. he wouldn't be able to land even one hit on him. He said that her words were too cruel. He was risking his life for a vacation. It was definitely worth it, especially since the battle hadn't started yet, but she was already rubbing salt in the wound. She leaned towards him with a very serious look, which made him feel embarrassed, and asked, "What was that?" She said that he had really changed. In the past, he would have refused something like that. She kept standing too close to him and said that it seemed like people really did change. After a while, the MC thought that time had flown by and the day before the school vacation had arrived. The students and teachers gathered in the hall and quietly asked, did he feel confident because he defeated Teacher Zhang? What does he expect by agreeing to a duel with the vice principal? He didn't even go to a hunter school. This teacher doesn't even really know his own subject. How can he claim to be an outstanding teacher? Who knows, maybe he has some advantage. He shouldn't forget who the vice principal is. He can go out and duel with one hand, and even with his eyes closed. He hopes that the vice principal will take pity on him and not humiliate him in public. Shinyuk thought that he actually heard everything. He's sure that they don't speak loudly, but because of the body upgrade, his senses are heightened. He called out to Jinsu, who was giving him a massage, and told him that he should stop and go upstairs. He refused and said that he should pay him back for the pizza. He asked, he just wants to watch the fight from the front row, right? Thought that the vice principal posted the information about the duel on the bulletin board, which was only accessible to the teachers. The students weren't supposed to know the location or time of the duel. Most likely, the teachers who don't like him deliberately spread the information. There are a lot of people gathered here. He doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of them all. He called out his name again and asked, are they saying something bad about him? Jinsu said that the teachers are saying behind their backs that he does everything to get the title of an outstanding teacher. He knows that he's not that kind of person. Yunsuk and the teachers held up a banner in support of the protagonist, loudly wished him luck, and said that they should go to the corporate event today. The students also started shouting loudly in support of him, and he thought that he was glad that someone was on his side. At the same time, other spectators loudly said that it was the vice principal. They started loudly saying his name and calling him the best hunter. He looked at it and thought that everyone was cheering for him. How irritating was he for his smug look. Mandong said that he didn't know that so many people would gather here. He was ready for the duel, right? MC looked at him and thought, did he really not know about it? He was the one who advertised the duel. He held a sword in his hand and said that he had been training hard. He said with a calm expression that if he didn't want to lose face, he would have to give it his all from the start. He would give him a head start so he could attack first. He nodded and thought that it was great that he was giving him the initiative. Usually, high-ranking people give up the first attack to weak opponents, but it was an unwritten rule, so he was worried that the vice principal would attack first. He had been preparing hard all this time to land one effective blow. The referee said that he should let them remind them of the rules, and then they would begin. The teacher attacks the vice principal once. If the attack is effective, then the victory is awarded to him. They agree to the rules, right? Mandong agreed, and he asked the teacher if he agreed to it too. Shinhyuk agreed and said that, however, he would appreciate it if he left the battlefield after the duel began. He was just afraid that the battle would be dangerous. The referee became embarrassed by this and said that he was actually an A-rank hunter. The vice principal raised his hand and said that he should do as he says. He agreed to this and said loudly that the duel to determine the title of outstanding teacher for the first semester was beginning. They were to greet each other. He ordered them to take positions and then announced the start of the fight. The protagonist removed the cloth from the sword and remembered what happened earlier. Yuryang gave him the sword and said that he should take this. He took it and asked what was inside. He turned around and said that this was the sword that one of his friends gave him. It seemed like he would need it. When he masters the art of swordsmanship properly, he should have at least some kind of weapon. Currently, he took out the sword from its sheath and thought that he only had one chance to strike him. He took a fighting stance and channeled energy into the blade of the sword. The students looked at him in surprise and said loudly that this was an Aurora sword. However, the teacher was of B rank. The Aurora sword could only be used by hunters who had reached the A rank. He thought that, of course, everyone present would be surprised by this sword. The teachers tried not to show their emotions. Mandong stood in front of him and said that he hoped that this was not all he had. MC began to emit powerful energy around himself and said that, of course, this was not all. Everyone was surprised by this and asked what kind of sword aura this was. It was a skill that only S-rank hunters could use. It was probably just an ability similar to a sword aura. The strange thing is that it was very similar to a sword aura. He stood in a fighting stance and thought that the old man said that he wouldn't be able to use the skill in battle, but the vice principal gave him a chance to do so. Usually, the first attacker uses a light attack to test the waters. He was going to put all his strength into his very first strike. Mandong thought with a slightly worried look that judging by how long it took him to prepare to use the skill, he hadn't fully mastered it yet. He called out to him and said that it seemed like he could attack. Shinyuk raised his sword above his head and said with a small smile that he apologized for the wait. He was saying that this wasn't all he had. He thought that it was the old man's friend's martial art. When he heard the name, he was surprised. The aura of the heavenly demon sword art. Everyone was very surprised when they saw it, and he told the vice principal that he was ready to attack. He began to use the skill Demonic Shooting Star, bringing destruction. He began to attack and thought that the name made it clear. One of his teacher's friends, and the original owner of this martial art, the legendary great monster, the heavenly demon. Earlier, he asked in surprise, his friend was the real heavenly demon? Yuryang walked ahead and asked, "What do you think? Moreover, how does he know about him?" He was surprised that he was a friend of the heavenly demon and thought that anyone who read martial arts novels would know about him. The heavenly demon is the absolute center of what is called demonism, the great axis that crosses Murim, divided into factions. Even in the novel he wrote, the readers discussed the heavenly demon a lot. Decadent appearance and brute strength. He is quite an attractive character to the public. These days, the heavenly demon can slay dragons or be reborn in the modern world to become a mafia boss or open a bakery. Even people who don't read novels have heard his name at least once. He said that he didn't remember where exactly, but he read about it in some stories about the past. Yuryang said with a smile that he was a famous figure in his time, but he was never able to defeat him. The protagonist thought that this old man was strong enough to kill a dragon, but it turns out that he has a friend who is a heavenly demon. He called the teacher and asked, "Didn't he say that he had two close friends? Then who is the other one?" He turned to him and said that his name was Zhang Sambong. He always talked about the highest limit. That friend liked to drink very much. He founded the Udon or Wudong sect, something like that. Maybe he knows him too? At present, MC thought that the sword, which is well imbued with power and continues to increase its power, the crack is formed as a result of the constant imposition of new steel on the old. Meridians of fragments of power fly out from the cracks like meteors. This is the aura of the art of wielding a sword of a heavenly demon. Everyone who was watching what was happening was very surprised because of his attack. Two teachers held a barrier to protect the stands, and one of them loudly said that there was one last barrier left. They needed to concentrate. The teacher agreed and thought with a very worried look that she couldn't believe that he destroyed the triple barrier they had created for the vice principal. The previous duel ended in Teacher Kang's victory, not because Teacher Zhang was weak. Until now, she thought of such a person as a worthless person. The referee looked at this with a shocked look and thought that if he had stayed on the battlefield, he would have died by now. He doesn't know what kind of thing the teacher used, but he was clearly given the wrong rank. Shinyuk stood there with a tired look and thought that he had used all the power his sword could muster. He wouldn't be able to use this skill twice. However, as the teacher said, instant destructive power is the best solution, and it is enough to destroy most high-level monsters. He laughed and asked the vice principal what he thought of this. It seems that this can be counted as one effective hit, right? He stood in a cloud of dust and thought that, except for this monster, of course. The vice principal was in a difficult situation. He agreed on the condition that the teacher needed to land one blow to win. Watching his first duel from afar, the vice principal knew that he was no ordinary B-rank hunter. Mandong looked at his hand with a serious expression and thought that his body was bleeding. He hadn't felt this for a long time. He didn't expect such a powerful attack to come at him. He said that it had exceeded his expectations. He never imagined that such an attack with a sword was possible. MC thought with a smile that the old man had said that the reaction would be exactly like this. In a world without martial arts, such skills are extremely rare. He said with a serious expression that, as he promised, he had given him a head start. He looked at him and asked, "Does he really want to get off so easily? He should look at his own condition. Does he mean that he didn't land an effective blow?" The vice principal was confused because of this, and he asked, "What's wrong with him?" After all, he agreed to the conditions of the duel. He thought about it. Was he really going back on his word now? It seemed like he didn't think it would go this far. He only made one attack, but there might even be 10 holes in the principal's clothes. He had already fulfilled his promise 10 times. Mandong scratched his head, agreed with him, and asked, however, how could he end the fight like this? He hadn't even had time to do anything. Shinyuk asked, however, was he the one asking to give him the right to make the first attack? He himself had said that he would give him a head start. He agreed with this too, but was about to object, but he immediately said that if he had nothing to say, he should call the referee. He called the teacher and said that there were so many spectators here. It would be a shame to end it so quickly. At that moment, the students loudly said that their teacher was the best. He was the future of swordsmen. He thought that he was so desperate that he had decided to use children. He refused and said that he didn't regret it at all. From now on, he would not receive challenges to duels. He has already achieved his goal, so he wants to finish. Victory in this duel is already his. Mandong looked at him in surprise, but a smile appeared on his face and said that he was right. The duel cannot be completed without an effective attack. The protagonist was surprised by this and asked what he was saying. He began to emit energy and said that he paid tribute to his strength, but he also had a social status. Since they decided on the duel, they needed to put on a show and entertain the audience. He released a very powerful energy. He looked at it and thought that his bleeding had stopped. The students looked at him with very surprised faces and said loudly that this was hyper-regeneration. He never thought that he would be able to see such a skill in a duel of honor. Mandong recovered his body very quickly and said that it was about one effective blow. However, as you can see, he is fine. The audience was outraged by this and loudly said that this was a scam. This is the arbitrary behavior of an S-rank hunter. MC looked at him and thought that he had decided to destroy his image with his own hands. He said that it seemed like the public didn't like his actions very much. Do they still intend to continue? Mandong took a fighting stance, agreed, and said that he was interested in his strength and wanted the duel to continue. He looked at him with a tired expression and thought that if he refused, he would be even more lenient towards him. He held the sword with a trembling hand and thought that his legs were shaking and there was no strength left in his arms. Thanks to the artery cleansing, he had recovered a little, but he was afraid that the skill he used earlier was all he could do now. It seemed like he couldn't escape his fate of being beaten. He said that it seemed like he wouldn't be able to block his strike. He raised his leg and said with a serious expression that in that case, he would begin. Shinyuk was surprised by this, and he kicked the floor hard. He looked at it with a scared look and thought, did he destroy the arena? Because of the dust cloud, he lost his opponent and wondered where he went. Mandong ran behind him very quickly and hit him very hard with his fist. With this kick, he hurt him very badly. After some time, he woke up in a bed and thought that there was a very strange ceiling here. It seemed like he was in the infirmary. He had already decided that he would meet the Lord of Hell again. It seemed like he lost consciousness for a long time. He put his hand on his head and thought that it was funny. He remembered what happened earlier and thought that at the moment the vice principal rushed out to him. He remembered the crazy teacher's technique of sacrificing a bone to save flesh. He blocked the vice principal's kick, not with his sword, but with his hand. Despite the energy inside him, the pain was accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. He gritted his teeth and swung the sword diagonally upward, cutting the vice director. It felt like he was cutting steel rather than flesh. However, before he was slammed into the floor, he personally saw a cut on his shoulder. It was a small but distinct wound. The cut was no more than 3 centimeters long, but he had to admit that he managed to land a blow. The curtain by his bed opened slightly, and Nurse Kim Sunghwa asked if he was awake yet. 4 hours had passed since he fainted. She was glad that he had regained consciousness. The protagonist looked at her and thought that he didn't remember her appearing in the novel. He thanked her and said that she probably had to stay late at work because of him. He tried to sit up, but was embarrassed when he noticed that his hand, which he had used to block the blow, couldn't move. She lowered him back onto the bed with her hand and said that his bones were shattered. She used magic to heal him. However, he would have to lie down for another 2 hours before his senses would return. He thought that this was the healing he had read about. He thought it was universal, but it turned out that this one had such inconveniences. The nurse said that the vice principal had asked to look after him. He didn't have to worry, she lived in the dorm anyway. He said with a small smile, which meant that this upstart, or rather the vice principal, had asked. He's okay, so she can go. Sunghwa said she doesn't want to. To be honest, her father told her to come back after curfew, but she decided to stay. She became interested in him. MC was confused by this and asked what she just said. She asked if he meant that she became interested in him. He refused and asked if he misheard or if she called the vice principal dad. He was very shocked when she said that she would pretend she didn't hear him call him that way at school. No one knows that she is his daughter. He thought with a shocked expression that he was apologizing for calling him an upstart. She said with a calm expression that she became interested in him even before the duel. She thought he was very interesting. She didn't think he would be able to fight her father. He laughed and said that the vice principal only defeated him because he passed out. She agreed and said that was exactly what the judge decided. However, she didn't think he lost. The attack he showed was amazing. She was sure that many people would agree with that. Shin-yuk thought that she was much kinder than he thought. Songhwa took out a small bag of letters and said that, by the way, he should take a look at this. His students brought him treats while he was sleeping. He opened the letter and it said that even though he lost, it was a great fight. He offers him to drink some alcohol when he recovers. He read it with a smile and said that it seemed like this was from Seo, and this was from teacher Yunsuk. He continued reading the letters of praise and said that Jinsu will get a high grade next semester. He took out another letter that started with a thank you from Seijin and thought that was enough. Songhwa asked with a happy look. He didn't feel like he lost, right? He laughed, agreed with her, and said that, however, he hoped that he would be exempt from the preparation. She was surprised by what she heard, and he said that, to be honest, new teachers were required to attend teacher training during the holidays. If he received the title of outstanding teacher, he would be exempt from the preparation. She laughed at this and said that now she understood everything. He was quite funny. However, hadn't he heard that these classes were quite interesting? He said that he didn't go to a hunter school, so he felt that his presence there would be inappropriate. In fact, this was the reason for the duel with teacher Jung. Songhwa said that not everyone at this school dislikes him. Even she, for example, is very interested in him. She's looking forward to the next semester. He doesn't understand how one can be prejudiced against him just because he didn't go to a hunter school. He laughed at this and asked if she also manages to work part-time as a psychologist. She said that she is asking him to be friends. Can she get his phone number? He agreed and said that he would send her payment for being his friend every month. He thought that she would take some getting used to, being the vice principal's daughter. But at least he had made a new friend. Thanks to the miraculous healing, he recovered within a day and was able to attend the school assembly the next day. Mandong said that the outstanding teacher of the first semester was the swordsmanship teacher Shin-hyuk. He thought that fortunately the vice principal had kept his word. One of the teachers raised his hand and asked, he didn't understand, how could a teacher who was clearly weaker than him become an outstanding teacher? He heard him and thought, of course, there were some disgruntled individuals. The vice principal looked at him and asked the teacher, did he want to duel him right then and there? He immediately changed his mind, and the protagonist thought that since he was the only one the vice principal had challenged to a duel, he had no choice but to give him the award. By the way, something interesting happened. Several teachers approached him, called him, and said that they asked him to accept their congratulations. He thanked them and thought that other teachers had started talking to him, even though it was a normal greeting. He said with an awkward smile that he was sorry for not introducing himself during the first semester. He hoped that they would work together well next semester. He was surprised by this and thought that he didn't expect that everything would change so drastically. After that, he returned to the classroom, gave a speech to the students, and the vacation began. Seo and Sue told the teacher that they were going to the seaside during the vacation. Would he go with them? Minhee's uncle owns a boarding house on Jeju Island. MC declined it and said with a calm expression that he would be busy so they should go without him. He thought, do they think he will spend the vacation in their company? He'd rather decline it since he has his own life. Jinsu happily called the teacher and once again invited him to go with them. One of the students who saw this felt sick and said that this was disgusting and that he should stop it. He clapped his hands to get the students' attention and said that he had things to do, they could all go home. The students loudly wished him a wonderful vacation. He received a notification on his phone and thought that he had finally received the reward for the duel with the vice principal. Songhwa wrote to him that all the participants were gathered. He read it happily and thought that now it was time for him to have fun. He decided to start a small business. After some time, Shin-yuk thought that investing in stocks before the elections had turned out to be quite successful. So, he decided to make money during the vacation. The reason for this was his almost empty bank account. The payment for the loan he took out to invest was decent. He invested most of the money he earned in Jisung's father's company, so now he has practically nothing left. He did the right thing by not taking out another loan since he has long-term investments. At times like these, he needs to find additional income. To be more precise, his new income will be portals. Yesterday evening, he was lying in the infirmary after his fight with Mandong. Thanks to Songhwa, he managed to find out the schedule of other teachers. She said with a smile that she was sure that most of the practical discipline teachers would earn money in portals. It was not for her to say that teachers' salaries were not that big, so everyone had to earn money elsewhere. After all, he was a hunter and should know how much money he could earn in portals. The protagonist laughed and said that, to be honest, that was not entirely true. Because he did not graduate from hunter school, he was something of a porter. She asked how he could be used as a porter. If he were on their team, it would be a sin not to use his skills. He said with a smile that he was grateful to her for her kind words. He had an idea. and she said with a happy look that she suggested going to the portal together in order to strengthen their friendship. If he was interested, then he could earn money there. He immediately agreed to it, and currently thought that he had won the duel with the vice director. Now he could safely go to the portal and earn money. The old man would be happy if he bought him more delicious food. By the way, he was a little nervous before going to a place he had only read about. He wondered who the rest of her team was. He was sure that Songhwa's nurse skills were perfect for raids. There was probably a smart tank in the team who was very necessary to cover the mage. It would be great if he had an older friend in the person of a hunter tank. After that, the girl greeted him and said that her name was Hong Lysol. She hoped that they would get along. He was embarrassed because she was a woman and was about to say something about it. Songhwa hugged her with a happy expression and said that they were old friends and that she was her father's best student and had been friends for a long time. She looked at her and quietly asked if it was a secret that she was the vice principal's daughter. She calmly said that it was fine since he was the teacher who had a duel against her father not long ago. Lysol pointed her finger behind her and asked if he was the one who managed to win the title of outstanding teacher. They should talk on the way. Songhwa called him over and asked, by the way, where did he leave all his things? He could put these in her car. He pointed to his sword with a small smile and said that he didn't have anything else but this. She felt very embarrassed by this and quietly asked if she was sure that everything would be fine since he didn't even bring a shield, just a sword. Songhwa, with a positive attitude, quietly said that everything would be fine. She didn't support her mood and asked why he was acting like an upstart. MC kept smiling and thought that he heard everything, and actually he expected to see a huge muscular man instead of her. By the way, she is a real monster, an A-rank hunter and later a wrestling instructor at Hunter High School. As a student of Mandong, she was the only one who could beat up Jisung the entire school year. The scene where he finally beats her and she fell in love with him was very impressive. After some time, they went by car and Lysol said that their schedule for today, 2 portals of C and D rank, designed for 4 people. They are both B rank and she is A rank. So the 3 of them can enter portals up to B rank. During the holidays, they should try not to go higher than C rank for safety. Shinyuk thought that there are 5 levels of portals, starting from the highest S rank and ending with the lowest D rank. From his observation, the earnings differ significantly depending on the rank. He called her by name and said that he thought they would go to a B rank portal. She immediately refused and said that there should be 4 of them. Besides, the equipment is completely unsuitable. They will go to a C and D rank portal. They will go to a B rank portal when portals for 3 people appear. He said that it turns out that he will not earn the money he expected. Songhwa said with a smile that she was very sorry. She is sure that with his skills, he will not be lost. However, for now, it would be better to listen to her. Lysol drove the car with a serious expression and thought that he was so arrogant. She is sure that this idiot does not respect her teacher. A B rank person without equipment, with a motive of making money, this is the kind of hunter who can cause problems. She will have to be careful. She called him by name and asked if money is so important to him. Then how about this? He can try to clear the 4-person D-rank portal alone. After clearing the portal alone, he will take all the items and payment for completing the quests. Moreover, if he performs well, she will consider going to the B-rank portal. This caught his attention and said that he would be grateful for such an opportunity. She was confused by his reaction and thought that he did not hesitate for a second. He thought that it might seem funny that he, a B-rank hunter, could not enter the B-rank portal. Perhaps it was not for nothing that it was designed for 4 people. It was time for him to check it out for himself. Lysol opened the window, gave the license to the military man, gave her name and said that she was an A-rank hunter. This was her ID. He said that when they were ready, they could enter. She said that her teammate, a B-rank hunter, would enter first and they would follow him. The protagonist got out of the car and thought that this was the D-rank portal. For some reason, he thinks that there will be a swordmaster eating noodles inside. She walked up to him and told him that he will have an hour. If he can't clear the portal in that time, they will join him. He agreed and said that they can trust him. He thought that he has never fought monsters before, so this is a great opportunity. She is much more sociable than he thought while reading the novel. She was a little embarrassed by his smile and thought that he was very cute. Songhwa walked up to him and told him that although this is a D-rank dungeon, it is designed to be cleared by 4 hunters. He said that it is okay, they will see what he is capable of in an hour. He thought that in the world of the novel, the first portal Jisung went to was a portal to a D-rank dungeon. He had a sword like his, which he received from Yurian. Thanks to the fight with the teacher, he was able to practice martial arts perfectly. It seems he knows enough to be able to defend himself. It seems his quiet life is slipping further and further away from him. No matter how you look at it, he is an instructor in the art of swordsmanship, and he already seemed to fit into this world. He walked through the portal, moved to an unknown place and thought that he heard that there was boiling lava and deserts inside the portal. Mountains were the most common place. MC walked further and said that the blue zone around the portal is a safe zone. It doesn't seem like he will be attacked from below. He sat down on the ground and said that since this is a mountainous area, he won't meet undead monsters or strange magicians. According to the plot of the novel, he can hunt natural monsters here. He needs to start with the ones that are closest. He released a strong energy and thought that in order to find the prey easier, he will strengthen his senses. Monsters with a good sense of smell can determine his location, but it would be best to announce his presence to everyone. He noticed 3 monsters in the forest, stood up and said that when he was with the old man, he felt like a prey, but now he was going to become a predator. He jumped forward very quickly and headed very quickly towards the monsters he found. He thought that the first portal after entering the novel world, a D-rank portal, calculated for clearing by 4 hunters. He noticed monsters flying above him and said that they were large monsters with high speed. They are good at climbing trees and have an unpleasant cry. They are giant monkeys, right? And so his first hunt began. Giant monkeys. They are weak compared to other monsters of their class. They have a fairly low percentage of magic stones falling, which makes these monsters not the most attractive prey for hunters. Shin-Yuk said, in the novel, the skins of monsters are sold for mere pennies, but they are not worth trying to catch these creatures. The monster screamed loudly, and MC gripped the hilt of his sword and said with a grin on his face, normal hunters would be content with what they have. He chopped off the monster's head and said with a smile on his face, I think it was said that the price of 1 magic stone is 300,000 won. How much will all this be? He turned around and said how much he likes the vacation. Giant monkeys are pretty smart. When they think they can't win, they immediately climb trees and run away. The skin of the monkeys is thick enough to use it as armor. Moreover, these idiots are really fast. A normal D-rank hunter wouldn't be able to handle this combination, but today this dungeon has turned into hell. MC heard that giant monkey skin is expensive. He could get a lot if he cuts off the heads carefully. He doesn't know the price per unit, but all the money from the sold loot will be his. Shin-Hyuk said, by the way, he is a little disgusted to see the monsters in real life. They are much more disgusting than in the novel. Luckily, he got acquainted with some materials at the academy. At that moment, drops of monster blood fell on his face and MC started to vomit. He vomited loudly, which attracted the attention of the monsters, who turned around and saw MC running towards them. He ordered them to stop with tears in his eyes. Shin-Yuk thought, ugh, what a disgusting smell of blood. It's much worse than he thought. How disgusting. He'll have to get used to all of this before the next portal. The monsters were running away from MC, and he was following them. He thought that Hong Li-Sol should wait for him. They'll be back soon. At that moment, there were some military men standing near the portal and looking around thoughtfully. The guy looked at his phone screen and said, it seems to him that something strange is happening with the portal. The second military man asked a question. So what? The guy answered that before he left for lunch, the portal was blue, but now it's indigo. The military man turned around and said, it can't be. It turns out this is an A-rank portal. The guy said, it turns out this is bad. The military man shouted in irritation, why is he only talking about this now? When did the portal become like this? The guy answered that he just saw it. And what to do with the hunter who entered the dungeon? The military man answered that they need to contact the commander. The guy asked, what about the hunter? Shouldn't they enter the portal to check the safe zone? The soldier started to quickly point his finger at the phone screen and shout, how will they enter there? If there is no safe zone, then they will die. They are not hunters, after all. If it is an A-rank portal, then at least 4 hunters of the corresponding level are required. Suddenly, a shout was heard from behind them. What did they just say? Songhwa shouted in irritation that they should immediately go after Teacher Kun. Li-Sol asked Songhwa to calm down. They need to contact the Hunter Association. Songhwa turned around and replied that the portals suddenly increased several levels. Li-Sol, she understands that Teacher Kang is not able to clear an A-rank dungeon. Li-Sol grabbed her hand and said that first she needs to calm down. She knows the main reasons for portal mutation. Portals can change their rank from time to time. The first reason is that the monsters in the portal evolved by repeatedly eating each other. In this case, the rank does increase dramatically unless there are special circumstances. And the second reason is that this dungeon evolves by eating the hunters that enter the portal. In this case, the stats of a eaten hunter can affect the creation of a unique, never-before-seen object. Also, the portal's level increases dramatically in the second case. I don't want to admit it, but it looks like Shin-Hyuk. Songhwa told Li-Sol not to make such a face. She's sure the monsters ate each other. Li-Sol replied that more than an hour had passed since Teacher Kang left. They need to be realistic about the situation. She looked down and thought that this was all because of her. She shouldn't have sent him alone. She was the one who talked about safety. But in the end, she created such a danger. Lisol said that she would go first, and Songhwa should wait in the safe area. She would try to find him as soon as possible. Songhwa called out to Lisol, and she thought that her teacher would do that. Lisol said that if Songhwa insisted on going into the dungeon with her, she would knock her out. She promised that she would come back right away if she sensed anything wrong. The soldier approached the girls and said, "Hunters, they can see the state of the portal. Are you sure you want to go there?" Lisol turned around and replied that she wanted to check if Mr. Kang was alive or not. She ordered to let them enter the portal. The soldier replied, "But it is very dangerous there now." The guy put his hand on his shoulder and said, "Let them go. This is Hong Lisol, Kim Mandong's student. He is sure that she will be okay." Lisol thought, the worst thing that could happen is that Shinhyuk has already met the boss. It takes at least 4 A-rank hunters to defeat him. Most likely the boss will be a giant poisonous spider or a giant snake or an ancient orc. If MC is very unlucky, he will run into a man-eating ogre nicknamed Nightmare. Teacher Kang, she asks. She hopes that he is alive and hunting small monsters. At this moment, Shinhyuk exhaled and said that he thought he ran too far. At his feet lay the corpses of the monsters he managed to defeat. He said that he was sure that this was a dungeon with a boss. He had already killed about 50 monsters, but there was no sign of the boss. The portal paints the sky yellow and disappears after 12 hours when all the monsters are defeated, which is usually called a clear harbinger. The area is so huge, he knew that there would be a monster here. No matter how much he thought, it was strange. This is a D-rank portal, but what is an A-rank creature doing here? A huge ogre appeared in front of Shinhyuk, after which, the system window reported that this was the same Nightmare. If 3 A-rank hunters go against the creature, one of them will definitely die. In the case of 4 hunters, one will leave the portal with heavy injuries. So to kill this ogre, at least 5 hunters are needed. MC thought he knew it himself. In the novel, the protagonist, who was assigned to the wrong portal, encounters an ogre. The monster was 2-headed. One could only encounter one like that in an S-rank portal. Shinhyuk thought he could easily handle a monster that required 5 A-rank hunters. He'll have to fight such a huge ogre differently. He's very dangerous. The system window reported that the hard bones and highly elastic tendons make the monster agile. The skin is so thick that only the sword aura can cut it. The ogre swung his sharp sword. The system window reported that this ogre is a monster of a different class. The loot from it will be significantly different. Before using the sword aura, it is recommended to master your strength. MC looked at the dent in the ground and thought, damn, it did this to the ground with one punch? Hit 10 times, a crater will form here. It resists. I wonder what kind of stone will drop from this monster? The system window reported that according to Kang Shinhyuk's memories, the ogre stone is worth 10 million won. Shinhyuk drooled in pleasure and said, 10 million. He used the aura of the heavenly demon's sword arts, and then the demonic shooting star. At this moment, Lisol was running through the forest, and MC was using the carrier of cool destruction. Lisol was wondering how far he had gone from the safe zone. Hong Lisol rushed towards the forest, and along the way she came across the corpses of giant monkeys. She looked around and thought that the tracks did not end. A whole path was formed from the corpses. There was a chase between the hunter and the monsters. Lisol squatted down and touched the liquid on the ground. She asked, "Is this vomit?" She wondered, had Kang Shinhyuk just been running away this whole time? It looked like he was throwing up out of fear. She should have gone with him from the start instead of leaving him to his fate. No, there were too many weird things. All the corpses she found were killed in the same way. They were all decapitated with a perfect slash. Giant apes are the fastest monsters in their class. They have fairly tough skin and hard bones. Plus, they usually hunt in packs. Killing them one by one is incredibly difficult. Even the sharpest swords can't pierce the monsters that easily. He used sword aura? Why is this person a B rank then? Lesel stopped and said, "Wait a minute." In that case, Kang Shinhyuk wasn't running from the monsters, he was chasing them. She scratched her head with her finger and asked, why was he sick then? Suddenly, she heard a rustling sound behind her. Hong Lisol felt a moment of relief when she saw all those corpses. She even had hope that Kang Shinhyuk was alive, but the roar from the forest said otherwise. Lisol froze and said, "That roar." She thought it belonged to an A-rank monster, an ogre nicknamed Nightmare. Its roar alone is enough to make most hunters stand in a stupor. As soon as they come to their senses and start running, they all meet the same end. The ogre's huge legs crush everything around it, and its speed can overtake even a giant ape. There is nothing to see here. Teacher Kang's death is obvious. By the way, the ogre might notice her presence, so she needs to hurry and get out of here. Suddenly, Lisol froze and asked, was there a roar again? Usually they don't scream without a reason. Maybe the scream meant the battle had started. In that case, Teacher Kang is still alive. A nightmare that requires at least 5 A-rank hunters to catch. Even if Kang Shinhyuk is alive and he joins him, it won't change the outcome. Lee Sol started running further and screamed that at this rate, she'll go crazy. She asked, why is she running there? If she goes back to the portal, she'll be able to return safely. There's a small chance that an ogre will chase her, but she'll survive because Songhwa is waiting for her in the safe zone and she'll help her. If she leaves, will she be able to look Songhwa in the eyes, knowing that she didn't even try to save Kang Shinyuk? Lee Sol said, oh my god, all this talk about safety and sanity. She's completely conflicted today. She screamed loudly, Teacher Kang, it's Lee Sol. If he can hear her, let him answer. Teacher Kang. Lee Sol ran out into the forest clearing and widened her eyes in surprise, thinking, an ogre. It was like a dream, a boundless and magnificent sight. MC swung his sword and struck the body of the monster, who screamed loudly. Lee Sol thought, the skin of ogres together with the regenerative ability has extreme defense. Defense that even the Aurora sword can't handle, but now the ogre's body is torn like paper. When Songhwa told her about Teacher Kang's skills, she didn't believe her. But this is definitely the aura of the sword. MC said, Miss Lee Sol, shouldn't she be waiting outside? Strangely, it seemed to him that an hour had not yet passed. He smiled and said that he didn't want to keep them waiting, so he decided to clear the dungeon in an accelerated mode, and then the boss suddenly appeared. Lee Sol thought, who the hell is he? She asked how he did it. Shinyuk asked again, did what? She was talking about the ogre? Lee Sol replied that the ogre was the second thing she wanted to know. What he did, was that the sword's aura? MC laughed and replied, he knows, it's still far from perfect. The skill had to be used because the ogre suddenly appeared. Now he understands why they insisted on going to the low-rank portal. Lee Sol thought in surprise, this portal had risen to rank A. MC smiled and said, by the way, in addition to the magic stone, the ogre's byproducts can be sold. I wonder how much money can be made. He pointed back and asked, from this? He started to feel really nauseous again, and Lee Sol thought, so that's it. Kang Shinyuk turned out to have a weak stomach. Shinyuk said, he's been nauseous for an hour now. Even the sky has turned yellow. Lee Sol frowned and said, the sky is turning yellow because the dungeon has been cleared. MC said, Miss Lee Sol, before she leaves here, could she please tell them that she was the one who defeated the ogre? Lee Sol asked in surprise. What was he talking about? Why was he trying to give her the credit for his efforts? Shinyuk replied, he just doesn't like to attract attention. He only became a hunter recently. Moreover, he doesn't have the proper equipment. He's sure that if people found out that someone like him killed an ogre, there would be a big fuss. Lee Sol looked at his smiling face and thought, this man, he understands the situation he's in. However, instead of running away, he decided to fight the boss. She smiled and asked him to forgive her for being rude to him. She had the wrong impression of him, so she apologizes. She's sure he has his reasons for not standing out. She doesn't know if they'll believe them, but they'll say that she killed the ogre. She extended her hand and hoped that they could work together. MC looked at her in surprise, then smiled and said, he also hopes for cooperation. He extended his hand to her, which had traces of vomit on it, which made Lee Sol wince and hide her hands behind her back. Shinyuk offered to go get the payment, and Lee Sol agreed. The system window reported that the A-rank portal had been cleared. At that moment, Songhwa was standing near the portal, clutching her staff in her hands. She widened her eyes in surprise and saw MC and Lee Sol. Tears welled up in her eyes, and the strangeness only continued. Kim Songhwa rushed to hug Shin-hyuk as soon as she saw him. Hong Lee Sol bowed her head and continued to apologize to him. Suddenly, Songhwa smelled a terrible smell coming from MC and pulled away, clutching her nose. Only after Shin-hyuk's explanation did he realize that he was presumed dead due to a sudden portal failure. He thought that this was quite unexpected. If he were in the place of these two, how would he react? She heard the roar of the ogre and ran to his aid, which means she had good intentions. He apologized for disturbing them, and thanked them for deciding to help him. Songhwa wiped away her tears and said how good it was that he was okay. Lee Sol said, by the way, Teacher Kang, does he know a company that deals with the disposal of carcasses? MC smiled and asked if they could suggest a good one. He hasn't hunted for so long, he already forgot. They came out of the portal, and Shinyuk sighed and said, the fresh smell of phytoncides. The air inside the portal is different from usual. He thoughtfully looked ahead, seeing a military unit with equipment in front of him. He asked, did something happen? A military man came forward and asked, Kang Shinyuk is a rank B hunter, right? Shinyuk answered, yes, sir. Can he know what's going on here? The military man replied that there was a report that the portal had changed its rank from D to A. Upon request for support from the Hunter Command, they arrived from the nearest base. They received information that 2 more hunters had gone in there after him to help him. But why did he come out alone? Was he the only one who got out alive? MC thought, that's why they were gathered here. It seems they thought that they died in the mutated portal. He replied that everyone was safe and the portal was cleared. Shinyuk replied, yes, that's right. Do they really think that he would lie to the military? A monster's head appeared from the portal, causing the military man to flinch and think in fear. It's an ogre! He ordered all the fighters to take out their weapons and be ready. A voice was heard from the portal. Everything is okay. Lisol looked out of the portal and winked and said, it's her. She is Hunter Hong Lisol, a rank. All 3 members of the group are okay. Teacher Kang, she can't get out. Looks like I'll have to cut it off. He suggested going in and cutting it off. The soldier thought it was definitely an ogre. How could 3 people handle an ogre? The guy asked, Sergeant Kim, what kind of monster is that? It's incredibly huge. The sergeant replied, he'd seen it during training too. It's an ogre. He never thought he'd see an ogre's corpse in real life. It's really huge. The soldier asked, couldn't the ogre be caught by just 5 of us, being A-rank hunters? Sergeant Kim said he thought so too. He guessed that student Kim Mandong was on a completely different level. Since he went in first, he thought he was the one who defeated the ogre. The soldier replied, it's just a smug, handsome man with a stupid expression. He needs to learn to read people. Just looking at the ogre's corpse is enough. He's a swordsman. How could he leave such wounds with a sword? Someone asked. He probably helped them, right? MC wiped his forehead and thought. He guessed they were fooled into thinking that Hong Lisol was the one who inflicted these wounds. He thought he could have dealt with the creature somehow, but if it weren't for the heavenly demon sword technique, it would have been quite difficult. The company he called said that they were familiar with Hong Lisol. I wonder how much they would pay? The merchant asked. Lisol, what kind of move did she use? This was his first time seeing a giant ape in such good condition. He could clearly see that she was Kim Mandong's own disciple. He had never seen an ogre that had turned into a rag before. Lisol laughed and replied with a smile on her face, it just happened that way. So how much can he offer for it? The merchant replied that the giant ape was in good condition, so he would give 16 million. MC was dumbfounded and thought, 16 million? Lisol replied, not bad. How much money could he give for the ogre? The merchant ruffled his hair and replied, the ogre's bones are fine, but the hide is too damaged, so it's hard to use in large quantities, so how about 13 million without including the cost of the magic stone? Lisol replied, well, that's too much. What will he say, Teacher Kang? Shin-Yuk stood motionless, tears streaming down his cheeks. Lisol cried out in confusion, Teacher Kang? In his head, he only heard, 16 million won, 13 million. No, if you add the cost of the magic stones, then how much is all this worth? MC clenched his fist and stuttered out loudly, 40 million won. The merchant said, he's a strange guy. She did all this. Why is he so happy? Lisol laughed and replied, it's just the way things turned out. Please let him transfer the payment to that person's account. Shin-Yuk thought that he had touched hundreds of millions before, gathering all his strength and soul, investing it in stocks. But this is just a jackpot. 40 million for just one dungeon? If it weren't for Li Ji-sung, the teacher would have thrown everything away and become a hunter. Taking into account the tax breaks for the teachers of the hunter school, the calculation was completed in the blink of an eye. The 2 people whose plans were thwarted by the portal mutation were given 10% of the profits each. Lisol said, Mr. Kang, it wasn't worth it. They didn't do anything. Songhwa agreed with her, saying, yes, that's exactly it. MC smiled and said, when he heard about what happened outside the portal, his heart felt uneasy. He apologized for making them worry. And please let them accept his gratitude for following him into the portal despite the danger. In that case, he's really embarrassed. It's not the last time they'll see each other. Is that really all? Songhwa waved her hands and said, no, the vacation will last for a long time after that. They can continue if he wants. Shin-Yuk smiled and said, okay. He apologized again for the inconvenience. He'll be counting on their support from now on. Lisol looked at him in surprise and felt a little embarrassed. After a while, she heard a shout. Lisol? Hong Lisol. Songhwa waved her hand in front of her and asked, is she okay? Ever since Teacher Kang left, she's been acting weird all the time. Even when she came to their house, she didn't say a word and looked like she had no appetite. Lisol exhaled and said, there's no need to talk about whether she's okay. All she did today was carry a carcass and be a driver. By the way, thanks to him, she didn't do anything, but she earned a whopping 4 million. To be honest, she's still embarrassed and thinking about paying him back. Songhwa asked, for an A-rank hunter, 4 million won, it's not that much money, right? Is she really so depressed all day because of this? Lisol thought. A terrifying swing of the blade that crushes an ogre in one blow. It was a technique that no hunter has ever shown. She spoke. Songhwa, her growth has slowed down since she got to A rank. Maybe Teacher Kang can be the key to her strength. Suddenly a voice rang out. It was definitely noticed. Lisol looked up and saw Mandong, who asked, they say she hunted with Songhwa today? He heard the news about the portal mutation. Even though she is his student, she still doesn't have enough strength to deal with a giant on her own. If we consider the possible options, it was most likely Teacher Kang who dealt him an effective blow. Lisol looked down and said, yes, it's true. And I can't believe that he is a B-rank hunter. Until someone sees it with their own eyes, no one will believe it. She thinks Teacher Kang himself doesn't want everyone to know about his strength either. By the way, he said that last time there was one free spot left in the school, right? Mandong asked again. In spear training, I think? Lee Sol replied, it's just training children. She will practice a little, and she will manage. Mandong said when he asked her to do the same, she didn't even react. He feels hurt. Does she know? What is she so happy about? The contract with the guild is about to expire. Lysol smiled and said, starting next semester, she is a spear instructor. She hopes for their support. At the same time, MC went to the teacher to tell the news of the victory. He pointed at himself with his thumb and said that this is how he cut the vice principal's left hand. He clearly saw it before he lost consciousness. He said, there was blood everywhere. Shinyuk extended his hand and asked, Master, is he even listening to him? Yuryang was eating noodles and answered, he is listening, Shinyuk, but he is eating. MC looked at him carefully and thought, he is smiling now, right? He is such a shy old man. Yuryang said, use a strong technique on some fool. It seems that this vice principal really did not want to lose. MC asked, how is he? He got all 110 points, right? The teacher answered, 90 points. Shinyuk asked again, why? Yuryang ordered him not to be impudent. Shinyuk bowed and said, anyway, thanks to your help, master, he managed to safely overcome the crisis. Even before coming here, he put it to good use when hunting monsters. Yuryang turned around and said, if he is so grateful, then let him at least buy him a portion of braised pork. MC asked again, well, what about him? How could he come empty-handed? Actually, he was going to give this to him before the fight with the vice principal. This is the gift he prepared for him, master. Please let him accept it. Yuryang thoughtfully looked at the contents of MC's backpack and asked, what kind of books are these? MC replied that they are textbooks used in learning the language used in the outside world. Master, didn't he say that he is interested in how the world outside the snowy plain has changed? Yuryang said, wow, he had to think of something like that. He picked up the laptop and said, by the way, what kind of book is this? It's unusually big and heavy. MC picked it up and asked again, is this, if he opens it here like this? He opened the laptop and illuminated the teacher's face, who screamed in fear, no, what kind of magic is this? Shinyuk clicked on the file from the Tokyo performance of the group Pink Purple, and a girl appeared on the screen. Yuryang screamed, there is a person in the book, let him look, there is a person. MC asked him to calm down. It is just a recording of an image of a person. No, well, even if he waves his hand, he still won't see it. Now she is the most popular idol. You could say she is like a dancer. Yuryang has been alone for a long time, although now he has already gotten used to being alone. There is no person in the MC world who would be used to this. In the past, there was undoubtedly a desperate struggle with loneliness. Yuryang spoke, this is what the outside world looks like. The world has changed a lot. Shin-hyuk sighed and replied, well yeah, both technology and culture. Yuryang interrupted him and said, what a pity. Even a famous dancer can't afford a decent outfit. That idiot Cheonma started crying. The world has completely rotted. MC asked again, what? What is he talking about? He started waving his hand and said, no master, it's not like he thought. Yuryang laughed and said, he's joking. That mysterious book and sesame noodles are easy enough to see. Student, the outside world seems to have really evolved. MC ruffled his hair and replied, well yeah, except for the portals appearing out of control and everything is in chaos. By the way, he's a little busy starting tomorrow. The teacher looked at him questioningly, and Shinyuk replied that today he needs to teach him how to use a laptop, and then he has things to do. Yuryang asked, is this a test? Is this a rest or something? This is not like him. MC spread his arms in different directions and said, master, he said that the best training is a real battle. His student is going to go kill monsters now. Here, let him look here. This round thing is called a mouse. If you move it, there is a white thing here. He began to explain to Yuryang how to use the laptop, which was more like some kind of spell for the teacher. After a while, Sungwa waved her hand and happily shouted, Teacher Kang, here, they are here. Shinyuk fixed his hair and said, good morning. Have they already had breakfast? Lisol answered, yes, she ate with Sungwa. And he? Teacher Kang? MC answered, he ate too. Since they ate together, apparently they met early. Lisol said, she spent the night at her house. She offered to go together today too in her car. After a while, they were driving in the car, and Shin-hyuk looked out the window and said, wow, something he hadn't seen before appeared here. What is this? Lisol replied that it was a modular spear. She was going to use it a little from today on. MC asked again, a spear? He thought what? In the novel, it was never said that Hong Lisol uses a spear. What about her main technique, hand-to-hand combat? Why suddenly a spear? Sungwa turned around slightly and said, this time, the position of a spear teacher at their school was vacant. They say Sol is going to apply there. Shin-hyuk thought about it, a spear. If it's about the spear technique, then it seems like they're talking about the position of Teacher Jong. who left after being defeated by him. Not a hand-to-hand combat teacher, but a spear teacher. Does that mean the plot has changed? Did he make a mistake somewhere? He didn't even really recommend the spear. Shinyuk asked Lisol, why did she suddenly make such a decision? Lisol looked at him through the mirror and answered, simply, she thinks school life will be good. During the holidays you can rest and get paid. MC clenched his fist and thought irritably, what is she even talking about, woman? One visit to the portal brings so much money. Has she gone completely crazy? Anyway, he needs to stop her. It's not like she's some minor character. If Hong Lisol's personality changes, it'll be a disaster. He peeked out from behind his seat and said, handling a spear looks difficult. If this is not her specialty, won't it be hard for her? Lisol smiled and replied, hunters who originally used a spear will have a slight advantage, but the spear fighting taught in school isn't that difficult, so she'll manage somehow. Songhwa looked at her and said, the job exam isn't that easy. Is she taking it too lightly? Lisol replied, an A-rank hunter has extra points too. What's the difference? It's just temporary, for this semester. MC thought in surprise, temporary? A temporary teacher? He asked, Miss Lisol, does she mean she'll be a temporary teacher? Lisol replied, she's just going to try out for 1 semester. If teaching suits her, she'll take the exam again and move on to hand-to-hand combat. Shinyuk scratched his temple and said, so that's it? He thought, wow, he even shuddered. Songhwa said, the portal scheduled for today is where the undead monsters come out from. When they arrive, she thinks it'll be lunchtime. Should they eat first? MC said, okay. What about the menu? Songhwa said, she brought her lunch with her. Lisol said, she brought hers too. Shinyuk wondered if they were going to bring lunch, they could bring him some too. He said, since it's in the mountains, he doesn't know if there'll be a store there. He didn't prepare anything after all. Songhwa turned around and asked, right? She prepared food for him. Teacher Kang too. Does he want something special? MC asked, slightly embarrassed, is there even something for him? He thought that he didn't expect someone else to cook lunch for him. During their school years, when they went on field trips, he was grateful even for the few thousand won that his parents left on the table. He couldn't even dream of lunch. Shinyuk said that he thought that they cooked food only for the two of them. Songhwa replied they weren't avoiding him, they couldn't take food just for themselves. Lisol asked again, did they have such a cruel reputation? That's too much. MC replied, no. He thought about it, he lives, and then such a day comes. It's touching. Lisol said, according to the map, there is some kind of park there. There's a blanket in the car, maybe they can eat there? Songhwa replied, yes, any place will do. After a while, they laid out a blanket in the park and put the containers with food on it. MC took a bite of food, and then grimaced. Songhwa happily remembered how she cooked and accidentally oversalted. She picked up a lump of rice with her chopsticks and handed it to Lisol. After a while, they approached a red portal, the area around which was fenced off. They went inside and began to fight monsters. When there is a chance, MC will buy food. Lisol jumped to the side and shouted, Teacher Kang now! After that, MC, Kim Songhwa and Hong Lisol spent several days in the portals without rest. They conquered some famous portals in the country, so other than food, they worked well together in many ways. Lisol thoughtfully said, a call at such a time. She answered and asked, Uncle, what happened? For a whole week? She has time, but, right? An A-rank portal? An urgent situation if he needs Songhwa. She thinks it is possible to arrange support from the rear. Moreover, she needs to know the other person's schedule. She thinks it is possible. Shinyuk smiled and thought that he was at the turning point of his second life. Lisol said then, Uncle, she will contact him again once they have agreed on a schedule. MC asked, Lisol, what's going on? He thought it was about the A-rank portal. If they needed his help, they should not hesitate to just say so. Lisol said, Teacher Kang gives him confidence. But the thing is, distance and time, it is quite a serious matter. Shinyuk asked again, distance and time? How serious is it if she says so? Songhwa looked at him and replied that Lisol's uncle is the leader of the Hwarang Guild, which is located in Jeju. Did something happen to Uncle's guild? Lisol replied, she understands. There were quite a lot of injured people coming out of the A-rank portal, and it is said that the guild lost a lot of fighters. He asks her to come at least for a week and help. He says he will not only pay for the plane ticket, but also provide accommodation and transportation. MC smiled and said that even if there is no support, he will gladly help. Nurse Kim will also go with them, right? Songhwa clenched her fist and said, of course. They can leave all the magic and cooking to her. Lisol suggested just buying food. Shinyuk said anyway, if it is only for a week, it will be fine for him too. Lisol nodded her head and thanked them. She said that when they arrive, she will treat them to delicious food. Songhwa smiled and asked, Lisol, she said that she will cook for her herself, right? MC said that he will buy for them. Lisol asked, then teacher, will it be okay if they leave early the day after tomorrow? He said okay, we can rest well and then leave. He thought, by the way, these guys also said that they will go to Jeju-do. Although they are not going to have fun, they are not going to hunt all day either. Well, if the schedule coincides, he thinks it would be nice to meet this swordsman. After a while, he was packing his suitcase and saying, I took socks, I took underwear, I took t-shirts, I have exercise equipment and lotion. I guess you don't need to take a towel, right? By the way, it's unlikely that you'll be able to get on board the plane with this. According to Kang Shin-hyuk's recollections, he never boarded with a weapon. At that moment, Sora called him on his phone. He looked at it and said, how lucky, he'll have to ask her. MC answered the call and Sora asked, since when does he answer calls right away? Shin-hyuk replied that the portal was resting today. Sora, is it possible to board a plane with a sword? She asked puzzledly, is he crazy? She was lying on the bed and answered, if you show your hunter's license, they'll let you carry it as luggage. She was calling about this very thing. MC asked, is this why? Sora asked again, license? Isn't it time for him to renew his license? From what she found out, it looks like his license is about to expire. It would be better to hurry up and renew it. If it expires, he won't be able to attend classes next semester. Shin-hyuk took out his ID and asked again, is that true? There's less than a month left, how did she know? Sora closed her eyes and said, actually, a few days ago she received a message from Antos again. It was a planned contact, but they mentioned it, so she knew. MC asked, about him? Isn't it over between him and Antos already? Sora answered, he made a statement, both on the video hosting site and during the sparring with the vice principal the day before the start of the vacation ceremony. Shin-hyuk said that the video on the video hosting site was removed a long time ago to protect the students, and he thought that during the sparring, they weren't allowed to film separately. Sora lay down on her back and stretched her arm out in front of her, placing her phone on the pillow. She replied, he's ignoring reality a bit. Why does he think the hunters who challenged him suddenly went quiet? Even if there's no video, there are dozens of posts online made by students. It seems like most people just don't believe in the aura of a B-rank hunter's sword. The students were probably exaggerating when they said Kim Man-dong spared him, so it wasn't much of a topic of discussion. MC replied, it wasn't a topic of discussion, so why did Antos take an interest in him? Sora replied, however, his abilities were appreciated to some extent. They say they've been short on people lately, so they're showing interest in him again. They asked her if she could pretend to date him and bring him back again? Shin-hyuk laughed and said, so she's suggesting using feminine charms. Did she really agree to that? Sora replied, no. It seemed like they insisted there too, so she came up with a suitable excuse and somehow got out of it. Most likely from now on, they won't talk to her about him anymore. MC asked again, what did she even tell them? He became even more anxious. Sora said, what? This? Shin-hyuk said that it was okay, she just needed to tell the truth. Sora said with an embarrassed face, and then he suddenly brought out something like a whip and asked him to hit her with it. He wanted to smell the smell of feet, trying to secretly steal socks. MC asked, Sora? She turned away and said, well, he knows, such situations happen, a reason that anyone would find quite convincing. But really, no need to worry. When they heard this, they didn't ask any more questions. Shin-hyuk burst into tears and clenched his fist and said thank you to her. Well, that means everything is okay. After a while, the MC, Songhwa and Lee-sol gathered at the airport. Shin-hyuk looked around and said in surprise, there are so many people here. Songhwa smiled and said, it's probably because of the holiday season. She envies them. Lee-sol said, they say the injured hunters will be back soon, so if they wait a little longer, they can rest too. MC looked at her and asked, they need to go to the Hwarang Guild first, right? Lee-sol replied, yes. The cousin told her that she would meet her. She said that she would wait for her at the 4th gate. Suddenly, a scream was heard, sister, she is here. Hong Ye-sol, a C-rank hunter from the Hwarang Guild, waved her hand and said, sister Songhwa, did she come to help too? Songhwa said, Ye-sol, how long has it been? How has she been doing all this time? Songhwa cried out, of course, sister, she missed her so much. MC thought dissatisfiedly, as if she listened to Kim Songhwa better than Hong Lee-sol. Lee-sol waved her hand and told her sister to say hello. This is teacher Kang Shin-hyuk, he works at the hunter school. MC said hello and said that he was Kang Shin-hyuk. Ye-sol said hello and introduced herself. She asked, is he really a teacher? MC said, yes. Ye-sol said, he is so handsome. She thought that he was not a teacher but a celebrity. He thought in confusion, how bright. Ye-sol said that they would discuss the details on the way to the guild then. They should follow her. On the way to the Hwarang Guild, more detailed circumstances could be found out. Last week, 3 ogres appeared in the 10-person Class A portal where the main forces of the guild were sent en masse. They managed to complete the quest with great difficulty, but one person died, and the deputy guild leader and all the team members were seriously injured. One of the guild members was so shocked by the death of a comrade that he decided to resign. MC nodded his head and thought, well, yes, in a world where magic exists, if he is not dead, then healing is possible. After all, healing magic can't heal mental trauma. It seems like the situation is really bad. it will probably be much more intense than he thought. Yasil said, "Here they are." She will walk them to their place of residence so that they can leave their luggage and go out. MC looked at the structure in surprise and asked, "Does this entire building belong to the Hwarang Guild?" Yasil replied, "No. Their guild only uses the 7th to 10th floors." Suddenly there was a shout, "Niece, let her come quickly." Li Sol smiled and asked, "Uncle, how is he doing?" Hong Jong-shik, the head of the Hwarang Guild, laughed loudly, and then replied that if he were fine, he would not have contacted them. "Songhwa, they haven't seen each other for a long time. Is everything okay with Brother Mandong?" Songhwa nodded and replied, "Yes. Father told her to tell her that he was sorry he couldn't come in person." Jong-shik pointed his thumb at himself and said, "Even for the intention alone, thank him, and this handsome gentleman must be Kang Shinyuk's teacher. It's nice to meet him. They can come in and talk." After a while, Jong-shik said he must have heard the story from Yasil on the way here. In short, the portal they will mainly be storming here is a 7-person B-rank portal. They usually form a squad in Hwarang and send more people than required, because the most important thing is the safety of the guild members. But unfortunately they are currently seriously short of people, and they can only give them 5. Lissel replied that there's no need to worry, uncle. This is enough. Teacher Kang, what does he think? Shinhyuk replied, "Honestly, even 5 people seems like a lot." Jong-shik wondered, "A lot?" MC put his hand to his face and whispered, "Judging by how they have been working together recently, even 3 will be enough. If it is 7 B ranks, then he thinks that even without additional support, it will be fine. First of all, if there are too many people, the profit will also decrease." Jong-shik ruffled his hair and said, "It's good that Teacher Kang is so confident. By the way, Teacher Kang, did he say that before he came to school, he was in a guild?" MC replied, "Yes, the Chase Guild." Jong-shik said, "It's a famous guild. He said that he is B rank, right?" Shin-yuk replied, "Yes, B rank." Jong-shik looked at him closely and said, "Teacher Kang, the B rank hunters from their Hwarang Guild have excellent coordination. If such a portal requires at least 7 hunters, then there must be a reason for it. Moreover, his daughter, niece, and even his niece's friend are participating in this operation. To talk about a reduction in numbers, let alone reinforcements, is unpleasant for him to even hear." Li Sol thought fearfully. Yes, of course they know how strong Mr. Kang is, but she didn't think about how this would look in the eyes of her uncle. He also has a very hot temper. It seems that she needs to stop it. Jong-shik said irritably. When he heard that his niece brought him, he greeted him with a smile, and it turns out that he is impudent. He went on a business trip with beauties, so his ego is off the charts, right? He ordered MC to follow him. He will teach him a lesson. Lysol screamed loudly, "Uncle? What is he doing now with a person who came from far away to help?" Jong-shik sighed and ordered her to sit still. This is important for the safety of their new guild members, and if she brings someone, then let her bring a normal person, not some idiot who makes jokes. Suddenly he looked forward in surprise. At this moment, MC took out his sword and covered it with energy. Jong-shik thought, the aura of the sword and the Aurora sword? When he first used the sword's aura in a spar with Kim Mandong, he still couldn't control the power. The Aurora sword, MC was very used to the feeling of passing through B-rank portals. They say that practice is the best training. Indeed, the master's words are spot on. Jong-shik put his hand on his neck and asked, "Teacher Kang, isn't he a B-rank? How did he manage to use the Aurora sword?" Shin-hyuk replied, "It just so happened that he mastered it, although it's not perfect yet." Jong-shik turned away and said, "So it wasn't a joke." MC apologized if he seemed frivolous. MC replied, since the 3 of them had worked well together before, he said this for safety reasons. Jong-shik frowned and thought, the portals keep appearing. Because of the many wounded, even 1 hunter is missing. If he has such abilities that they can reduce the team, it is certainly very convenient for them. Songhwa smiled and said, "Uncle, he needs to trust Teacher Kang." This time, he even fought with her dad and won. MC said a little sadly, "No, he didn't beat him in the end." And the vice principal held back. Songhwa smiled and said, "Yes, if everything had been according to the rules, the teacher would have definitely won." Jong-shik widened his eyes in surprise and thought, by the way, recently there was a rumor that one of the teachers fought with Brother Mandong. He asked, then is this the person who dealt Brother Mandong an effective blow? Li Sol answered, "Yes, that's right. It was Teacher Kang." She thought that she also had the same reaction at first. Maybe she should have told him in advance. Jong-shik scratched his head and said, "Well, wow. With such abilities and only a B rank? Does this have something to do with the past?" MC replied that there was no special story behind it. It's just that the conditions for promotion have not been met yet. To pass the A rank assessment, he needs to clear the B rank portal at least 100 times. But unfortunately, overseas activities don't count, so he's a little short. This year, he's only renewing his license, and next year, he'll try himself out. Jong-shik grabbed his head and clicked his tongue. He said that there's a saying, the one who stands out is the first to get hit. In order to avoid any misunderstandings, he definitely needs to pass the A rank assessment once he's met all the conditions. Liesel smiled and thanked her uncle for understanding. He interrupted her and said that he wasn't finished. Portals are real practice. Although he has good physical fitness, the fact that he doesn't meet the conditions to pass the A rank assessment probably means that he lacks experience compared to his combat power. Zhang Shik said that he would assign 2 hunters who are knowledgeable about the terrain and specialize in support, so they need to keep that in mind. There will be no more concessions. MC cried out, "Thank you, respected guild leader." He looked closely at his dissatisfied face and thought, as expected, the leader of a large guild is different. He realized that he lacked experience and decided to compensate for it. Although he said that the 3 of them had been working together for a long time, in fact, there was no special arrangement. When Kim Seonghwa cast strengthening magic, Hong Li-sol with a spear and he, the swordsman, they simply cut everyone down. Swordswoman Hong Ye-shol also joined them. Wonder who they are going to assign to the remaining 2 spots? Han Guangho, a B-rank hunter from the Hwarang Guild, said, "Hello, he asks you to take care of him." Next to him stood Li Jihye, a B-rank hunter. Ye-sol smiled and said that they were the most capable of those who were originally supposed to join. Brother Guangho mainly uses fire magic, and sister Jihye, she is an amazing sniper. Jihye put her hand on her chest and asked to assign the Hwarang portal area to them. Guangho spoke up. He also has some detection magic. He can detect threats immediately. MC smiled and thought their group only consists of close combat fighters, so they decided that they lacked a long-range one. Although the leader looks frivolous, he has a careful side. He asked, "Then, will they enter right away?" Today, he suggested just trying to synchronize their movements a little. Li-sol said, "Yeah, okay." After a while, they entered the portal and ended up in a cave. MC said, "As they can see, the terrain here is cave-type with many curves." Guangho added, "Also, the terrain here is complex with many blind spots, and the monster that appears, as luck would have it, is a big red rat. It's a portal that was too difficult to clear, so it was postponed until later." Shinyuk said, "I see. Then, how about they just look around for 2 hours today?" Guangho said happily. "Great. Just a little, just for 2 hours." He thought, what? He heard that the lineup was cut back, and thought he was some kind of psycho. And he, unexpectedly normal, huh? Jihye said they've been outside the safe zone for a while now, so it's better to be careful. After all, they don't know where those monsters might pop out from. She turned around and pulled the arrow, screaming loudly like this. At this moment, MC had already cut the monster's body, which made everyone surprised. He looked at the corpse and said, "So this is a big red rat. It doesn't look like what he imagined at all." Liesel asked, "What kind of creature did he imagine it to be?" Shinyuk replied that he imagined something like this. Basically, a mouse. Liesel said, "Teacher Kang, it's good that he didn't become a writer. That would have been terrible." He asked again with displeasure, "What's wrong with his imagination?" Jihye was puzzled, thinking, "What was that just now?" She thinks that person didn't even use mana. He detected the presence of the red rat faster than a B-rank detection skill. The rat is fast, and the terrain here is complex, so it's a monster that's hard to detect. Someone suddenly asked, by the way, "Teacher Kang, what do you think the portal is this time? Most likely with a lot of monsters?" Shinyuk smiled and said yes, probably because it's a 10-man dungeon. Someone's presence is very strong. Someone asked, "Hunter Kang Shinyuk, does he also have a detection skill?" MC smiled and said that you could say so. He will definitely cover, so there's no need to worry. Jihye and Guangho looked at each other and thought, it's strange, of course, that they are being covered. This scene looks somehow ridiculous, but it's impressive. It seems like the people were cut for a reason. 2 hours later, Jihye said, "It's awful. It's even hard to catch up." "Mr. Guangho, these psychos, are they going all the way to the end?" Guangho answered breathlessly, "Who knows? Anyway, they said 2 hours. It seems they didn't mean the exploration, but the time until completion." MC wiped his forehead after killing the monster, and Liesel continued to move forward. Someone said that for the first time he felt sorry for the rats. The system window reported that the 10-person B-rank portal had been cleared. Jihye put her hand to her lips and whispered, "Ye-sol, wasn't the one called Teacher Kang a B-rank?" Ye-sol smiled and replied, "Perhaps, but to be honest, she herself didn't know for sure. It was the seniors who invited Teacher Kang Shinyuk." Guangho repeated the MC's name and asked them to wait. He asked, "Is the teacher's name Kang Shinyuk?" Ye-sol replied, "Yes." "And he, Guangho, has he ever heard of him?" Guangho squinted his eyes and said, "He actually challenged that person once." Jihye said, "Oh my god, so he was on the verge of death." Ye-sol said, "By the way, at this scale, the profit alone could be around 6,000 won. But since there is no contribution, it looks like he will have to go back empty-handed." Jihye sighed and said, "That's right. They can detect the monster's locations like magic, so they don't really need much support." Ye-sol lowered her head and said, "Although Liesel and Seonghwa also contributed, it's almost like just standing back and watching." The MC happily said that they're dividing between everyone. Everyone looked at him with puzzled eyes, and Jihei said, "Mr. Kang, they haven't really done anything." Kang Shinyuk asked, "Is today a special day?" He overacted a little today to calm them down, so don't worry too much. It wouldn't have been possible to enter without them anyway due to the lack of participants. For those who believed and followed the stranger, at the very least, he should offer them a share. Guang Ho said with delight. "Hung?" The MC asked again. "What?" The guy put his hands in front of him and rushed into the MC's arms with joy. Kang Shinyuk asked him to calm down. A team was assembled for the Jeju expedition for a while. After some time, there was a backpack in the car, in the room of which there was a phone. The phone received a message from Un Seo and Un Su, who wrote that the day after tomorrow they decided to go to Jeju. He really won't go with them? Teacher, is he doing well? Does he by any chance remember what he said at the end of the semester ceremony? The girl offered to go with them to Jeju, since they were going there. After that, messages from Jinsu began to come to the phone, who tried to write some sounds. He wrote that he was the baby producer Jinsu. Teacher, let him go with them to Jeju.